Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's edition of the Sunday Wire. I'm Patrick Henningsen, your host. We're streaming out live on the Alternate Current Radio Network and also at 21stcenturywire.com. Hello to everybody in the 21 Wire chat room. Also, big hello to everybody on Rumble, YouTube Live, BitChute, Facebook Live, as well as a few other of the audio streams. Again, we'll be going on after the program on iTunes, Spotify. So big hello to everybody there. And thank you guys for hanging with us this week. We've been off for a couple of weeks. As I said in previous shows, I was going to be on the road. We had a very successful summer tour, a number of festivals, both with 21st Century Wire and the UK column, and also in Europe as well. We're at Liverpool speaking there just this past week in Central Europe and Serbia, which was for me a great thrill. My first time to the Balkans, as it were, and for that event too, which was a phenomenal event and amazing organized event. And some of the caliber of the speakers there was incredible. Alex Zek, who's one of my favorite speakers as well, was there, and really enjoyed his presentation. We can talk more about that later on, but we've got a very important broadcast today. This is episode 560 of this weekly omnibus news and analysis radio program, again brought to you here on ACR. And then also I'm Patrick Henningsen, your host. If you're watching on X as well, X Live, if this is your first time, welcome to the program. We got a great community here. What we'll do is we'll talk about the main story here in the first segment. And everybody's talking about, you know what it's going to be. It's in the show title, The Truth About Charlie Kirk. We'll talk about the shooting, but also we'll talk a lot about him as well. Then in the second segment of Overdrive, which will be after the break, we'll bring our teammates in from ACR. Bryan McClain, aka Hesher, host of the Boiler Room. Adam Clark, Ruckus, host of the Daily Ruckus. Basil Valentine as well. We'll bring a roundtable together. We'll just break down this issue a little bit further. So again, we're looking forward to that. So that's what we'll do after the break. We also have some video clips as well, which we'll be sharing with you about this topic. And most importantly, we will go to the people who really understand what's going on. That's our listeners, our viewers in the comment threads. We'll be reviewing some of the top comments. We'll be doing that during the Overdrive segment. So again, the incredible engagement in our comment threads, especially on YouTube. It's unbelievable how many hundreds, thousands of comments are pouring in during this broadcast on Sunday. Unbelievable engagement. So we got great loyal listeners. All we need to do now is break YouTube's algorithm prison that they've kept us in for the better part of a decade. Anyway, we're working. It's yeoman's labor. We're working on it. What can we say? Listen, let's get to the topic at hand. Before we do that, though, I want to bring on to the screen just to remind people there's a very, very important article up at 21stcenturywire.com. It's right here, Destabilizing Moldova. Europe and Zelensky's plan to thwart Trump-Putin peace efforts with provocations in Transnistria. Transnistria being the breakaway pro-Russian or Russian-allied republic there, which is in the eastern part of Moldova. So Zelensky and the Europeans want to keep this war going, and they're going to use Moldova to do it. There's receipts in this special report, which we released last night. Very, very important article. I want everybody, if you're watching, go to 21stcenturywire.com, grab the link on this, share it across your social media feeds. This is so important. This is how it looks like this is one of the gambits that the European leaders and their intelligence services and NATO, although this is probably being done outside of NATO, and Zelensky are planning to basically shake down the U.S. for more money, more weapons, and to keep the war going and potentially drag Europe into an extended regional conflagration or conflict. So read the report for yourself. If you find the evidence compelling, which I'm sure you will, you really need to share that on your X, on your Facebook feeds as well. Post this article, get people to comment on it, make sure people read this. It's very important. It's very important. While they're so close to getting some kind of a negotiated settlement, or at least getting somewhere towards, an end to this conflict, you have other parties, mainly France, Macron leading the way, with the UK, Germany, and the EU behind Macron as the chief instigators to try to drive this conflict further down the road. These people are crazy, and they won't stop until who knows? I mean, what do they want in the end? They want to see Ukraine totally destroyed. Do they want to destroy Europe in the process? I mean, what is the end state for these European leaders? And remember, when we're talking about Macron and some of these European leaders, these are people floating out like with a 15% approval rating, 20% approval rating, that are governing with these really flimsy, tenuous coalition governments. They don't have a mandate. Macron hasn't had a mandate probably since his first election. Okay. He shouldn't even be in power. He is literally clinging by his fingernails. And meanwhile, Candace Owens has his, the Elysee Palace literally by the balls. I'm not kidding. You know what I'm talking about. I mean, that's how desperate Macron is. Not to mention, France has stolen something like 60 billion in Russian frozen assets on the sly. So if you look at Macron's rhetoric, how aggressive it's been towards Russia in the last couple of weeks, that's why. Okay, because France is running point on this destabilization effort in Moldova, and it looks like France has stolen a lot of money that was supposed to be kept in escrow. And they probably don't have the cash to pay it back because France is totally skint as a government. Whatever spare change they managed to magic up in the central bank, they're sending to Ukraine and probably to Israel as well. So that's what's happening. Important article. Again, put this up on screen. That's at top of 21stcenturywire.com, right above the Nord Stream special report by Freddie Ponton, which is we still have pinned on our features section. So a number of great reports on our website right now. So I do encourage people to get over there and share that right across all of your different feeds on all the different social media feeds and so forth. But yeah, that's what's happening. So again, very important destabilization efforts. So, where's that going to leave Trump's, rapprochement with Russia? Probably out in the lurch. It's not going to happen. So this is how Zelensky is going to stay in the game. Moldova, Transnistria, folks. Believe it. That's what's happening. So, well, we'll see how that develops. We'll be reporting more on that in the coming days and weeks. So, but here is the story, and we'll have to just understand what happened this week. On September 11th, ominous day, Charlie Kirk, conservative pundit, political activist, gets gunned down. That's what we're going to be talking about in this first segment. No doubt this is going to bleed over into the Overdrive segment. I'm sure of it. So Charlie Kirk. Some people in Europe might not have heard of Charlie Kirk, but this is dominating U.S. headlines, at least for this week. We'll see how long it lasts in this hyper attention deficit disorder information economy that we are living in. So Charlie Kirk was gunned down, assassinated. If you want to use that term, he didn't hold any public office. So let's say he was murdered. But he was a political activist, definitely a surrogate of the Trump administration. And speaking at a college event, and a very polarizing figure in politics, but his shooting is even more polarizing. Obviously, some people are doing a victory lap. Charlie Kirk was the sworn enemy of the left, as he called it. And of course, many in the left, of course, are not upset that he's no longer doing what he's doing. And you can think of what you want of that reaction, but When you put yourself out as a polarizing figure and you declare war on half of the country, registered Democrats, people who identify as being, quote, on the left, you're going to get a visceral reaction if something like this happens. So this is what Charlie Kirk did. This is what he did for a living. And we're going to talk a little bit about who he was and what he was, because that's important. That's important. And we'll talk also about who backed Charlie Kirk, who was backing him financially, because that's also important. See, Charlie Kirk, a lot of people will say, different people will call him different things. I've heard people call him a journalist. He's not a journalist. He's a political activist who does journalistic things. That's what Charlie Kirk is. He's a political activist. But he's not just any political activist. His organization, Turning Point USA, is probably the number one influential political action group. It ran as a 501c3, not for profit, but it attached itself to the Trump administration, which its neutral status as a not-for-profit. It's very debatable. It's more like a political action committee with a media arm and an events arm. But put that debate aside for the moment, and certainly there's plenty of controversy there with that organization. But what people need to first understand, and this is the number one point, put this in perspective with Charlie Kirk, okay? People in politics that take political money, and this is a general criticism, we're not admonishing Charlie Kirk specifically. We're just telling you how it is. That's all. And if you don't like, if anybody out there is a Charlie Kirk fan or, brandishes around their conservative bona fides or Christian conservative bona fides, you don't like what we're about to say, I apologize in advance. It's probably not the show for you. Okay. We're just telling things as they are, as objectively as possible, real politic. And the real politic is this. People in politics that accept political money, if you're Brian Mast or you're Tom Cotton or Marco Rubio, and you take millions from the Israeli lobby, from IPAC and all the other Israeli donors, then your views on Israel are a reflection of those who are stuffing money into your pockets, donating to your campaigns and so forth, your sponsors. These are the people paying you. And how it works in U.S. politics is whoever pays you, you tend to reflect the views that the people writing the biggest checks have. So Charlie Kirk's views are very much a reflection of the donor base for his organization, Turning Point USA. And it's very important to understand that Turning Point USA is not a small political concern. Turning Point USA is racking up revenues of $100 million per year. Okay. This isn't just a little podcast, does events and shows up on college campuses and puts his table out and says, prove me wrong, let's debate. And do the whole Ben Shapiro stick, getting in arguments with purple-haired, gender-neutral, confused undergraduates at UC Berkeley. Okay, that's not what this is. This is a mega political action organization that's funded by the richest people in the world, the richest people in the United States, many of whom are the richest people on the planet, the billionaire class. Hundreds of millions, you're either worth hundreds of millions or billions. That's Charlie Kirk's donor base. Okay, as well as the foundations that are run by those billionaires. And it just so happens that many of those billionaires happen to be Zionists. some of which are Jewish family foundations that exclusively support Jewish interests and Israeli interests. Okay, you can look it up for yourself. You can go to a number of these watchdogs that will have Turning Point's donor class in them. We're talking about the Richard Uhelian, whatever. He's the guy that Schlitz beer, the Schlitz beer magnet. And his foundation as well. You see some of these people like Peter Coors, the Coors Beer Foundation. I mean, Adolf Coors, one of the biggest racists going. I mean, that's no secret. But you have these sort of people, the Rauner Family Foundation sponsoring anti-BDS legislation in Illinois, if I'm not mistaken. The Marcus Foundation exclusively for Jewish causes. The Bradley Foundation that has bankrolled a lot of anti-Muslim campaigns, including the Horowitz Freedom Foundation, which then pays for the legal bills for Tommy Robinson in the UK, the Middle East Forum, which is a Israeli Zionist cutout, effectively, if you really want to drill down and look at the work that the Middle East, quote, Forum do. I mean, that's under the Bradley Foundation. The Bradley Foundation is a major bankroller for Turning Point USA. And the list goes on. I mean, if you really want to go down that list, it's mind-boggling, the amount of money. And so that's the point, is people are paid to have their views. If the billionaire class wasn't pumping money into Turning Point USA, what do you think first of all, Charlie Kirk probably wouldn't even have a podcast. He only has a media, it's paid views, like literally paid to get views on YouTube, Rumble, and across the internet. Because when you get 100 million a year in revenue, you can pay for visibility for your podcast with your studios, your producers, your guest bookers, paying guests. And you yourself as the host, your views are paid for. Charlie Kirk held views that reflected the people that were paying him. This is the most important concept you need to understand. So that's where we need to start. You know, and my first observation, I've been watching Charlie Kirk since 2012, you know, since Turning Point USA appeared on the scene, specifically during the first Trump campaign. Okay, he was very young, and he looked to me like very young, not particularly deep, not particularly intellectual, but yet played the role of a zealot in terms of being a voice in the culture wars. Extremely anti-Muslim, anti-Islam, extremely pro-Israel. Now, we'll show some clips of recent months where he began to waver on the Israeli issue somewhat recently, which we'll show you some compelling evidence there. And that might also raise questions about, you know, who may have been the shooter or the assassin, what the motivations might have been, which we can only speculate on at this point in time. But I don't think it's cruel to say Charlie Kirk wasn't very deep, okay? He's basically no different than any mainstream podcaster, the mainstream, quote, alternative media, and what we call Con Inc. You probably heard that term, conservative Inc., called Con Inc. It's a play on words, obviously, con artists. And a lot of people, original MAGAs, don't like the big money that's been pumped into the MAGA movement. It's seen as an anathema to the original spirit in 2016. But the entire Trump movement's been colonized by the billionaire class. I mean, Elon Musk being like the ultimate kind of expression of that, literally buying his way into the White House before like being ejected in glorious fashion and the end of Doge. What a con that whole thing was. We talked about that on this show. I said that Doge wouldn't be around in a year before Trump was inaugurated. Neither would Elon in the White House. And of course, I was right. So we're this show. Well, let me just finish my thought here. So what the mainstream podcasters do and what Charlie Kirk would tend to do is read the room, i.e., read the news feeds. It's what Rogan does, what everybody does. And when they see the wind blowing a certain way on the Ukraine conversation, or maybe even on the Gaza-Israel conversation, when the opposition to the government reaches critical mass, then they start talking about those issues in a more open-minded way, or vaccines or lockdowns and so forth. But they're usually behind the curve significantly, certainly way behind shows like this. And again, I'm not blowing my trumpet here. People who listen and watch this show over the last decade know that we're usually first or way, way, way ahead of the curve on all these issues. Okay. And, that's why we don't have $100 million pumped into our organization by billionaires, because we are ahead of the curve. The reason people like Charlie Kirk and others like him and Ben Shapiro, the reason they're subsidized by the billionaire class and the multi-hundred millionaire class is because they are gatekeepers. It's because they do throttle the conversation. They do act as sheepdogs to their flock. Okay. That's why they get the big money. This is why they dominate the major media platforms, video sharing platforms. It's why they go viral. It's why they're force-fed into your feed. It's why Elon Musk retweets them, forces them into your X feed. Okay? It's because they are consistently behind the curve. It's because they are gatekeeping on these important issues. It's for that reason. And then they'll pivot accordingly. If it looks like their conservative base is pushing back on vaccines, or the health for freedom movement's getting incredible traction, they'll move very quickly and start pivoting. This is what Rogan and Russell Brand and Ben Shapiro and Charlie Kirk as well. If they think they can use the issue to leverage support amongst their base, then they'll pivot. The exception would be the Israel issue. Okay. That's not an easy pivot. And we'll show you how awkward that is for people like Charlie Kirk, who was under incredible pressure from a lot of people within MAGA to stop basically carrying water for Netanyahu and this genocide that's happening in Gaza. And so he started wavering on the Israel issue, probably from August 2025, really in the last 6 weeks. Before that, I would say Charlie Kirk was a loyal soldier for Zionism and everything that Israel was doing in Gaza and the mass extermination and ethnic cleansing of the native Palestinian population. Okay. And we can show you plenty of receipts for that. So, but that's 2 years of sheepdogging for Con Inc. and MAGA on the Israel issue. I mean, what can we say? But there's a few other things that we could, add to that. But we'll look at the slides here and just kind of do a little review. Now, it's important on the shooting itself, and this is one thing. This is The Guardian, by the way. I like the image. The headline's good. I'm not a big fan of The Guardian, as you know, even though they published my work a long time ago, back before electricity was discovered. Questions linger about alleged shooter's motivation for the Charlie Kirk killing, and this is true. Nobody knows. I mean, this shooter hasn't even been convicted yet, but conveniently, a suspect has been produced. Multiple suspects have been produced conveniently, and they seem to have found one that they're going to go with after flooding the space with fake suspects for the previous couple of days. And of course, we know nothing. Have we done the forensics? Do we have his prints on the weapon? Do we have a positive ID of him on the roof? No, they have none of this. So my personal feeling is when I saw this is a professional hit. I don't care what anybody says. Selected time and place, rooftop, shot at distance, kill shot to the perfectly hitting the artery in the neck. I mean, this is a professional hit. The shooter not apprehended, no manifesto on 4chan. It's a professional hit. Whether the patsy that's going to be taking the fall for this is the shooter or not remains to be seen. Most likely, it looks like he will be prosecuted as such. Have they pulled off assassinations like this in the United States without catching the right person? Has that ever happened in history in the United States? Yes, it has multiple times. Could this be the case here? I would say it cannot be ruled out based on history. So we need to get out of the imaginary world in our mind that suddenly everything the mainstream media says is accurate and real, and that there's no such thing as false flags or set up fake patsies to take the fall for high-profile assassinations, etc., or that foreign governments are not involved in these type of criminal activities on U.S. soil or any country for that matter. We need to get out of our little comfort zone because all of those things are still happening in the world and are still in play. This is no different. So still a lot of questions to remain, but the media will push you to make up your mind and things like that. Now, this is just unbelievable. The grift on this is incredible. So Sean Hannity and others are promoting the Give, Send, Go page for Charlie Kirk's wife and children. Okay, fair enough. Generally not a problem. But you have to understand Charlie Kirk his family live in a $6 million estate in Scottsdale, Arizona. That is one of the most affluent neighborhoods in the United States, in the whole country. Okay. That's where he lives. And his salary for Turning Point was around $300,000 a year plus expenses, probably everything. Probably rarely had to dip into his pocket, certainly travel, everything. This organization's raking in $100 million a year. So I'm sure he had no out of pockets. Who knows, the write-offs galore. So we go to Give, Send, Go. They've already raised $1 million. So in 48 hours, they hit their goal already. They'll probably raise, if Hannity and all the Fox hosts are still pumping this, they're probably going to raise millions. The sky's the limit. Sky's the limit. So, I mean, not only that, though, his wife's probably going to take some vestigial role in the Turning Point and will draw a salary in addition to everything else. So these people are not short of a few dollars. They're fabulously wealthy compared to Joe the plumber and Jane the plumber. That's the first thing. So the grift is unbelievable in terms of how the mainstream media and the sort of millionaire class on Fox, all of those hosts are millionaires on Fox News, how they're pumping this and trying to capitalize on. Rabbi Shmuley, believe it or not, believe it, actually, Rabbi Shmuley was basically also trying to raise money on the back of the Kirk story. And you just go to his X feed and you can see Shmuley himself was basically, crying that he no longer feels safe and he needs to beef up security. And I think he probably even dropped a link. We'll try to dig it up, but a Give, Send, Go link where he's trying to raise money on the back of this tragedy, as it were. And Ben Shapiro announced he's canceling all of his public engagements because of safety reasons, etc., etc. I mean, there's just no end to people trying to capitalize on this financially. I mean, these people are absolutely shameless. But I think we do have that that Shmuley tweet. Yeah, we do. Unfortunately, we're going to show this to people. I apologize in advance, but let's bring this up on screen here. So this is America's Rabbi Shmuley Botish, who apparently doesn't feel safe after this event. So he posted this on his X account, and he's saying, "I have spoken for my friend many times." He's talking about Charlie Kirk. "I'm in shock and praying for help protect Rabbi Shmuley." So he's saying, pray for Charlie Kirk, but send money. He's got a GoFundMe link there. Send money for Rabbi Shmuley. I'm confused. So it's that Charlie Kirk got shot, but yet help Rabbi Shmuley. I suppose because he doesn't feel safe and he needs to beef up his security. I believe that's what is happening here. Although, I really don't know. I really don't. Who knows with these people? Anyway, I know it's unsavory, but we had to show you that. I apologize. But back to the subject at hand. So the other thing that you have to realize is after October 7th, Kirk and everybody went into overdrive on behalf of Israel. And the amount of fear-mongering that was going on was unbelievable. But what was interesting was around earlier, Elon Musk and Kirk, you remember, banned the ADL. Elon Musk was upset because the ADL was pressuring Musk. This is the early days of when he bought Twitter and then changed it to X. And Musk did this hashtag ban the ADL, and he started flirting with this idea that it was Jewish money that was funding cultural Marxism and open borders and immigration. Okay. This is prior to October 7th, or right around that time. And if you remember, Elon Musk then got dragged by the ear to Auschwitz to do a struggle session with Ben Shapiro, Shmuley, a whole bunch of other rabbis, and then got dragged to Israel to do the October 7th propaganda tour, led by Netanyahu himself. So Musk was disciplined for his insubordination, and from that point forward was tasked of being a loyal soldier to Israel. And so Kirk, interestingly, and this is where it gets interesting, Kirk himself also was flirting with this similar talking point, and it probably came up with Tucker Carlson as well and others. And so we'll see if we have this video, which I think is quite incredible, and we'll show you after October 7th. This is important. So what we're doing here is we're tracing the evolution of Charlie Kirk's kind of public positions vis-a-vis Israel. This is very important because it's going to lead up to a crescendo. So when we're studying this and we're looking at these issues, these sort of things are not necessarily coincidences. So I'm going to call this the Elon trap. Okay, that's what I'll call it, because that was the Elon trap. Elon set a trap for himself and it ended up getting collared by the Israeli lobby, and they own him. Here it is. This is Charlie Kirk before. Very important.
Jewish communities have been pushing the exact kind of hatred against whites that they claim to want people to stop using against them. Now, I don't like generalizations. Not every Jewish person believes that. But it is true the Anti-Defamation League was part and parcel with Black Lives Matter. It is true that some of the largest financiers of left-wing anti-white causes have been Jewish Americans. They went all in on woke, and it wasn't just ADL. It was some of the top Jewish organizations in the country that have done that. In fact, we have seen this with the recent retreat of Jewish donations that are no longer going to be administered to colleges, right? Mark Rowan, Leon Kopperman. Can we get that full list? It's very powerful. The part of the, so that's totally true. And by the way, Tucker Carlson reinforces this. So I'm going to it was quite a day on the internet. Tucker Carlson was interviewing Candace Owens. We have Candace Owens coming up next hour. And Tucker Carlson mentions that Jewish Americans have primarily been financing cultural Marxist ideas. We said this, by the way, last week, and people came after us.
We were on top of it.
We actually said it in a different way. We said, I'm glad that Jewish Americans are reconsidering their financing of cultural Marxism. And people misunderstood it intentionally and slandered us as being anti-Semites. But listen to this. Tucker Carlson is completely correct by saying this, that the philosophical foundation of anti-whiteness has been largely financed by Jewish donors in the country.
Okay, so that's Charlie Kirk also stepped into that Elon trap. Okay, that was before. And the timing of that was, then October 7th happens. Okay, then you get this. So these are leading conservative influencers basically saying that after October 7th, and Charlie Kirk was also doing this, although I think he deleted his tweet after myself and many others. Basically, I don't know. I'm looking for his tweet on that, but that there's Hamas sleeper cells crossing over the southern border to wreak havoc after October 7th, a day of Muslim rage. I think that people were pushing that, and everybody was on it. Here's Robbie Starbuck. Does anyone really think that among the men cheering for Hamas in major U.S. cities today, alongside the left-wing activists, there aren't some willing or waiting to do some of the things on our soil? Know your surroundings and be vigilant, everybody. I mean, everybody was at this at the time. I remember it very vividly. Even Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's kind of pivoted away from supporting Israel in the last 6 months, she said at the time, she tweeted, what happened to Israel could happen to America. We have been invaded by aliens from over 160 different countries. We don't know who they are or where they are. There's so many that gotaways, the Biden administration can't even keep up with them. This should be a wake-up call. And it gets worse. Laura Loomer, no surprise there. President Trump release a new statement on Truth Social about the attacks in Israel. The same people that raided Israel are pouring into our once beautiful USA through our totally open southern border at record numbers. It's true. Hamas has terror cells all over the USA. That's a complete lie, but obviously that's par for the course for Laura Loomer. She's basically an incitement machine. That's what she does. Representative Andy Biggs from Arizona. I used to like him. Certainly, I would have been on his side on a lot of other issues, except for this one. He's turned out to be dumb as a box of rocks when it comes to Israel, but he's not alone, of course. He says, how many Hamas sleeper cells have crossed our southern border under Biden administration's policies? We are not prepared. That was October 8th. So this was a coordinated push. Probably, who knows who's in the background pushing this in terms of influenceable organizations or these sort of agencies pushing Israeli propaganda. Jack Poso, he tweeted on October 7th, wait till Hamas activates the sleeper cells that already came across our border. Again, fictional, didn't happen. And, it's hard. I have to point out to these people, if they don't already know, the Hamas is really based in a place called Gaza, very small piece of land called the Gaza Strip. That's where Hamas is. Try to conceptualize that, if you will, conservative thinkers and thought leaders. You understand? And they're sort of hemmed in. There's closure of air, sea, and land borders. They're sort of restricted there. They've never done any expeditionary terrorist activity. In fact, under the UN Charter, under international law, they're regarded as an armed liberation struggle organization against an illegal Israeli occupation. That's how international law defines Hamas. But Israel calls them a terrorist organization, calls their political wing terrorists, and has lobbied for the U.S., Britain, France, and others and Canada, etc., to also designate them as terrorists. Their military and political wing, even though they've never attacked or threatened the United States or Britain or France or anybody in Europe. That was purely an Israeli lobby effort in order to delegitimize them and then to give Israel and America and those supplying weapons to Israel carte blanche to kill what they deem to be, quote, Hamas, which is all Palestinians. You see, that's what that terrorist designation has done. And now we all see the results of this. So that's what these people promoted, that, including Charlie Kirk. It dehumanized Palestinians, ramped up the irrational and fabricated fake fear of Hamas sleeper cells in the U.S., and that in turn created the manufacturing of consent for the U.S. to support Israel unconditionally in every single way and whatever it does. Okay. Here's another one. This is what Charlie Kirk put out on October 7th, or right around, it's October 7th or October 8th. I'm not sure. But this is what, I mean, it was kind of a long-winded tweet. He says, why is Hamas so atrocious? Why do they not just fight Israel, but engage in some of the worst atrocities imaginable, like rape, massacring civilians, and so on? There's no evidence of mass rape on October 7th. This was another canard, nor is there 40 beheaded babies. That was another bit of atrocity propaganda put out by Israel, repeated by Joe Biden and the U.S. media, still to this day. Charlie Kirk continues, why do other Islamic fundamentalist movements from Al-Qaeda to ISIS to the Taliban do the same things? That's funny. Charlie, maybe a better question would have been, why don't Al-Qaeda and ISIS ever attack Israel? That's a legit question. Very interesting. And the answer, of course, is because Israel is deeply involved in all of these clandestine organizations, as is the U.S. intelligence and British intelligence. And they've always been, including the Muslim Brotherhood, by the way. That's another discussion, which we fleshed out very well with Kevork Almassian on Syriana analysis a few months ago. Unfortunately, it comes down to one of the core principles, says Charlie Kirk, right around October 7th when he tweeted this. The core principles of Islam: be like Muhammad, take slaves, rape young girls, kill people in robberies. Okay. So that's Charlie Kirk's worldview. So he's putting this out, it's getting millions of views, influencing all the 18 to 35-year-olds that follow Turning Point. And he continues here giving his sort of ham-fisted historical diatribe. And he continues saying, that is why your doctor or colleague or neighbor is not a bad person. There are decent people precisely because they are decent people precisely because they are bad Muslims who are not really following Muhammad. So it's very convoluted and twisted what he's trying to do here. And he's basically lumping in Hamas with ISIS, which is laughable because the Al-Qassam brigades and others kicked ISIS out of Gaza because they don't support that. And again, Charlie Kirk doesn't mention that there's Christians in Gaza and they live harmoniously with Muslims all throughout Palestine. So it's the mischaracterization, the dehumanization of Palestinians with fake narratives. And unfortunately, Charlie Kirk did this a lot. He did it a lot. So a lot of this is absolute balderdash. And then he goes on about Carthage, saying, no doubt 2,300 years ago, there were decent people in Carthage too. Oh my God. Who revolted against sacrificing innocent children. Nevertheless, Carthage was evil. And it's a good thing that its child sacrificing death cult is gone. It's a good thing that ISIS and the caliphate are destroyed. Not really. ISIS is in power in Damascus. Yeah, again, this was before the overthrow of the Assad government in Damascus in December 2024. But we digress. And it will be a good thing when Hamas is gone and Islam no longer oppresses billions of people all over the world. So is Islam oppressing billions of people all over the world? That's what Charlie Kirk believes. So he's a clash of civilizations guy. And he worked very hard to push the clash of civilizations narrative and to pit Christians against Muslims, Arabs against Jews, and so forth. And I'm just pointing out, the net effect of the effort of Turning Point USA and the $100 million that have been channeled through this organization to push ideas, crazy, convoluted histrionics and race baiting and just polarization, division that could end in violence. And I guess, ironically, at least in Charlie's case, that polarization, well, we can't say what the true motivations of the shooter were because we don't know. So I don't even want to speculate. Now, this was one which came after, where Charlie Kirk says Islam is the sword the left is using to slit the throat of America. I mean, talk about an inflammatory statement. So he's merging the left with radical Islam, the left with ISIS and Al Qaeda, and he's pushing Hamas in there too. I mean, it's so manipulative and disingenuous and kind of ruthless in the political divisiveness sweepstakes. And I mean, there's some other clips that we can show. I mean, there is another video clip. So we could bring this up. I mean, Charlie Kirk basically, probably from that actual interview there, we'll bring this clip up. Listen, you can hear it for yourself. This is another part of that discussion, which it's important for people to hear.
Battle is coming to the West, and the enemies are wokeism or Marxism combining with Islamism to go after what we call the American way of life. And the American way of life is very simple. I want to be able to get married, buy a home, have kids, allow them to ride their bike till the sun goes down, send them to a good school, have a low-crime neighborhood, not to have my kid be taught the lesbian, gay, transgender garbage in their school, while also not having them have to hear the Muslim call to prayer 5 times a day. That's important.
Okay, let's just pause there for a moment. Everything that he wants his kids to get married, have a family, buy a house, live in a low crime neighborhood. Okay. Mainstream Muslim culture in America or Europe or anywhere else is exactly the same. They're not pro-trans or pro-LGBT. They're the opposite. In fact, in Britain, the first people to hit the streets pushing back against this radical, progressive, trans and gender fluid education stuff in school were Muslims families. They came out first. They're the ones who were brave enough to come out and hit the streets on that issue first before white British did, you see. So Muslims are more socially conservative on the whole than white Europeans. They haven't bought into the progressive agenda, you see. So they're actually conservatives. Now, Charlie Kirk later had made statements after a few years, probably in the last couple of weeks or months, saying he wanted a coalition. He wanted to bring conservative Muslims with all these family values into a coalition. So the point about Charlie Kirk is he's all over the place. As I said at the beginning of the show, like many mainstream podcast types, he flip-flops whichever way, whichever way the money is pushing him in terms of his donors, or whichever way the issues are trending. Okay. This is how mainstream media outlets behave too. They'll go whichever way their advertisers, the people paying them, are pushing on issues like vaccines and so forth, pharmaceuticals, or if things are trending and the public is just so outraged they can no longer hold back the tide of public discontent, then they'll break ranks on talking points and start to give ground on some of these issues. Charlie Kirk is exactly the same. Exactly the same. So let's listen to the rest of his statement here.
We want the American way of life, which is, by the way, Christendom. Christians, our sacrifice, our toil, our vision, the outgrowth of the scriptures gave us Western civilization. And this is where I think is a great rallying cry. Doesn't matter if you're Hispanic, doesn't matter if you're Asian, doesn't matter if you're black or white. Everybody, if you are Christian and Jesus Christ is your Lord and Savior, these two threats are combining forces to come after us. And it's time that the church stands and rises up against it.
Yep.
So again, it's this idea that Western civilization is Christian and that nothing came from the Middle East, from the Arabic world, including advanced mathematics and our number system, and none of the science that came from China, including modern navigation. The list goes on, including the translation of the Greek classics through Andalusia and the Renaissance, through Muslim scholars doing that work and so forth, working with, even in some cases, Jewish scholars. This is prior to the Spanish Inquisition. If you want to talk about Western civilization, gave us the Dark Ages. They're burning books in Europe and burning women at the stake, accusing them of being witches, while they were pursuing advanced sciences and developments in other places like the Middle East and the Far East. Those people were preserving our books while we were burning our books. So, I mean, it's a kind of a discredited debate that, and by the way, all Americans do not go to church. Okay. People who identify as Christians who actually don't pray or don't go to church. And plus there's people who aren't Christian as well in America, Christendom. So on one hand, he's pro-Zionist, but then he's saying that he doesn't say that Judaism is the foundation of America, or Islam or Buddhism or Shintoism or Native American worship and Hinduism and so forth. All these people make up the tapestry of the United States. And the United States has a Bill of Rights. We have a Constitution. We have freedom of religion. It is not a, quote, Christian country exclusively. And the American civilization, whatever that is, in its decrepit state these days, is not Christian. Okay. There are Christian aspects to Western and American civilization for sure. There might even be large parts of it that you could identify and categorize that way. But these sort of statements are basically, again, clash of civilization, divisive narratives that are being used by Christian nationalists, white nationalists, real kind of crazy radicals to push race baiting, and many of whom ultimately want to see a race war in the West. That's what they're pushing. And they're using the immigration issue and these very arguments that Charlie Kirk was pushing out, these divisive, polarizing arguments, which he did consistently at every opportunity in order to herd his flock in that direction. Now, he might have broke ranks in the last couple of weeks or months, and certainly that's compelling. But we first need to realize that Charlie Kirk was a political tool. That's the most important point here. In addition to what I said at the beginning, that he's paid to have the views that he holds, which he's constantly modulating depending on trending topics and money, but he's a political tool. He's being used by the billionaire class that put $100 million a year into Turning Point USA as a political action interest to push certain issues, to defend Israel, to push the clash of civilization, to push anti-Islamic rhetoric, which Charlie Kirk did for years consistently. That's hugely destructive to society, to the fabric of America as a pluralistic constitutional republic. And I know that must pain some so-called conservatives to hear that. But if you're not constitutional, you're not a conservative. Full stop and period. And if you're pro-genocide in Gaza and you support Israel slaughtering Christians, Muslims, children in the hundreds of thousands, the new numbers are out, by the way, then you cannot rightly call yourself a Christian. I don't care what anybody says. That's up for that is a legitimate debate. And I'm not the first person to say that. A lot of concerned people out there, including in America, are shocked and disturbed by the amount of Americans brandishing their cross of Jerusalem like crusaders on their breastplate, while simultaneously cheerleading an industrial scale Holocaust in Gaza. That's problematic. It should be problematic if you identify as a Christian. It should be. But for many, it's not. And that's a problem. But Israel loves this situation. The Israeli lobby loves what it's achieved here in America. It's manufactured consent. So it's really important that people grasp what's happening here. And we'll go back to some of the other details on this, which I think are worth pointing out. Turning Point USA, again, this is a massive political action, not for profit. It's a giant super PAC with a media arm, basically. And their advocacy for so-called conservative issues, anti-woke. They managed to merge anti-woke with anti-Palestinian and anti-Muslim. It's a very successful high wire act, which the Israeli lobby, the Trump administration, and the evangelical Republican wing have successfully done to a horrifying effect in the last 2 years, especially. But that's what Charlie Kirk is really in charge of there. We highlighted just one of the donors of Turning Point here, Michael and Andrea Levin Family Foundation. That is an exclusively pro-Israel Jewish interest foundation. And there's others in there as well. Almost every single one of these you'd call Zionist, either Christian or Jewish donors. The Marcus Foundation, another one. So that's who is bankrolling Charlie Kirk. So what happened if Charlie Kirk went off the reservation in the last couple of weeks? What would happen there? And again, we'll talk about the reaction here. I mean, from Rubio and so forth. Rubio's all off to Israel this week. But State Department will ban any foreigner from entering the country who celebrated the assassination of Charlie Kirk online. Deputy Secretary of State Chris Landau confirms. Thomas Fassi, this is how it starts, the new Patriot Act. I mean, it's just ridiculous. They've already kind of immortalized Charlie Kirk as some kind of a great political figure, when in fact he is the head of an organization. Here's another one. Charlie Kirk has fallen, a martyr for American patriotism. That's how the sort of narrative is being constructed. He himself has never said anything really profound, constantly changing and modulating his views. I mean, somebody who talks at events and has a podcast and is pushing out just basically content, filling the airwaves with content constantly, doesn't really say much about anything. He's really just parroting talking points the whole time. It's nothing profound or deep. Certainly the level of analysis of U.S. foreign policy doesn't touch anything that we do on this program or any of our colleagues on the other shows. that I either appear as a guest on or things that I watch, including Judge Napolitano's Judging Freedom as an example. That's the #1 political talk show in America. And Charlie Kirk could never be on that show or could never opine in any intelligent way. He's not in the league of anybody who would appear as a guest on shows like that. But he has a massive audience, and he's usually influential because of the money that's behind him. And Glenn Beck, I mean, the whole of the blaze, it's Charlie Kirk. This is just the front page. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's like 20 Charlie Kirk articles this week. It's just plastering. And Glenn Beck says, why Charlie Kirk's assassination will change us in ways this generation has never seen. What is he talking about? That was literally 24 hours after the shooting. So they're desperate to construct a narrative around Charlie Kirk, to use him. As I said before, while Charlie Kirk was alive, and this isn't like, I'm not admonishing him, I'm just stating fact. He was a political vehicle. He was a political tool. He was used by the most powerful and wealthy people in the United States as a tool to lead an organization to advance whatever talking points or interest or social engineering or pro-Israeli things that they wanted to push, to manufacture consent for the Trump administration to do exactly what it's doing right now, which is rounding up dissenters, arresting students, deporting people for writing op-eds critical of the state of Israel, as an example. Forget all the anti-woke, anti-LGBT stuff. That to me is just like romper room. That's Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. That's for Ben Shapiro to go beat up on gender-confused, non-binary undergrads. Okay? That's for the beta males who call themselves tough conservatives. That's for the Jordan Petersons and the people that follow him and who subscribe to the Daily Wire. That's who that's for. The big ticket items are geopolitical, foreign policy, economic. Those are the big ticket items. And free speech. And all of these people who claim to be pro-free speech were cheering on the government shutting down free speech across U.S. campuses, including Charlie Kirk, calling them pro-Hamas students, pro-Hamas rallies, a total lie. People protesting a genocide were being framed as pro-Hamas. So it was a double lie. So that's the conversation that we want to have here today on Charlie Kirk. Now, a funny thing happened on the way to the office at Turning Point USA in August. And somebody who I have great respect for is James Lee, who is an independent journalist, who's a fabulous reporter, and who's probably one of the best TikTok video producers there is. I put him and Nico House up in sort of the top of my league table of being able to condense complex issues into understandable bite-size chunks. And this is what James Lee pointed out. And this is important. We're going to wrap this segment up, obviously, but not before we hear this. Very, very important. And so what happened with Charlie Kirk in the months running up to this incident? What happened? That's the big question. He changed his views. He changed his views on the Israeli issue. Let's listen to this. This is James Lee.
That I trust very much. And this is coming from the top levels of government. And they were having dinner with people, senators in the Senate Foreign Intelligence Committee. They are not openly saying this at this point.
Of course not.
But in private conversation, they're saying, hey, this looks like potentially Israel is behind this.
Wow.
And then in terms of getting to the actual evidence itself, a very close friend of Charlie Kirk's put out there. Charlie didn't want to put out this tweet himself, but he told a friend to put it out on the internet and said, hey, if I go against Israel, I think they will kill me.
And when did he say this?
This was August 13th.
So less than a month ago.
I can see Charlie over the last few months sort of take in new information and have his mind shift a little bit, right? He used to be an Israeli loyalist. Then he starts to sort of mildly criticize Israel in that, hey, I don't think we shouldn't be allowed as an American to question the acts of a foreign government.
I have text messages, Megan, calling me an anti-Semite. I have less ability sometimes online to criticize the Israeli government without backlash than actual Israelis do. And that's really, really weird, isn't it, Megan?
And he publicly said, hey, maybe Epstein was Mossad. He certainly had a lot of connections to Israeli ex-prime ministers.
And there's also this clip where he questions how October 7th happened.
Was there a stand down order? 6 hours? I don't believe it. Israel's the size of New Jersey. When I took a helicopter ride from Jerusalem to the Gaza border, it's 45 minutes. 6 hours. They're live streaming the killing of Jews. Did somebody in the government say stand down? That is a legitimate, non-conspiracy question.
I mean, this is a big problem for Israel. Charlie Kirk was maybe the most influential figure on the right, especially with people under the age of 30. And when you start to have somebody that influential as a conservative is say, hey, we need to maybe reassess this relationship. There's something weird going on. This is a warning to people in the media to say, hey, you need to stop this right now because you could be next.
Wow. So, nice job there. And big shout out to James and Today-ish, the show that had him on as a guest, where that segment came from. You go to James Lee's X feed or check him out on TikTok or Instagram. So that's something there. And then the piece de la resistance, Charlie Kirk debates Ben Shapiro. Just within very short space before this shooting. And this was to say this was uncomfortable for Shapiro. And so this is an edit just of Charlie Kirk's questions to Shapiro. Charlie Kirk's trying to be balanced here. I think this was just this past week before the shooting, before he was killed. I mean, this is pretty incredible. Watch and listen closely. Watch and listen closely. This is beyond interesting. And notice Shapiro is seething in the background. And you can watch the whole debate if you want. This is on Rumble. It's on a number of channels. We don't have time to run the full length of it. Someone has clipped out just the questions here. Watch.
Seen news this morning that quite honestly I'm a little confused by, and I was hoping you could navigate it and help us understand, which is that Israel bombed Qatar, which houses a lot of Hamas officials. What happened here? And if I were to introduce just the skeptical question, will this potentially endanger America's own interests in the Middle East? So please, Ben, help me better understand the situation. I just spent time in Japan, and one of the things that kind of looms over Japan is that Japan, they engaged in an unconditional surrender, that they said, we're done. And they laid down their arms, obviously, after the 2 atomic bombs. Very controversial. People have mixed opinions on it. I certainly do. But that it is unconditional surrender. Is that what Israel is aiming for here? I suppose that is a question that I get a lot on campus. What does success look like? Because I think we could all agree a long war is not good for Israel, a long, drawn-out war, and we're coming towards 2 years in about a month, so it's been about 23 months. So what does ultimate success look like in the Gaza Strip? What other feedback or criticism would you have about this situation? I know that it's impossible for anyone to listen to everything that you ever say, but looking at this from an American perspective, what else would you say things could have been handled differently? Maybe on the PR front, maybe also just on a conduct front. Where would you say, as an outsider, things that could have been handled better, more efficiently, or with more precision? A claim I receive often, and we're starting our campus tour tomorrow, is that Israel is committing genocide. How do you respond to that, then? Ben Shapiro, author of Lions and Scavengers. We're going to get to that in a second. I have 1 or 2 other questions on Israel. I think it's very important for our audience to hear this, though, because there is an incessant campaign. And one thing a friend sent to me, interestingly, which is, okay, Charlie, we push back against the media on COVID, on lockdowns, on Ukraine, on the border, so like maybe we should also ask a question. Is the media totally presenting the truth when it comes to Israel? Just a question, that maybe we shouldn't believe everything the media says, because I know I've been conditioned to ask a lot more critical questions over the last couple of years. So, Ben, some people would accuse Israel of wanting to ethnically cleanse. Some people in the Israeli government are saying, again, it's all over the place, right? You have opinions all over. In your opinion, what would a good outcome 5 years from now be, and how does one respond to the claims of ethnic cleansing? We're running out of time here, but just last question on this, Ben. I know this might be a tougher question, but Bibi said, quote, I didn't like he said this, I'll be honest. You can't be MAGA if you're anti-Israel. I don't like it for a couple of reasons. How did you analyze that statement from Bibi?
And it is totally fine to say to people who wish to destroy our civilization, no, your values suck and they don't belong here.
Where does all this resentment come from?
So Shapiro's got a book, Lions and Scavengers, basically saying the scavengers, i.e. the Arabs or the Muslims, are coming to destroy us in the West because they're jealous of what the lion has, the success of the lion. This is identical to the George Bush clash of civilizations, 9/11. They hate us for our freedoms. They hate us for our way of life. That's why they came and attacked us on 9/11. That's the identical. And Netanyahu constantly pushes this point that there's a clash of civilizations, that it's Islam against the West, and it's the brown people against the white people. Obviously, the white settlers of Israel, European people don't talk about that, like to talk about that, but there's a European colonial aspect mentality to this. It's kind of, that should actually be front and center in this discussion. But I mean, it's toxic what Ben Shapiro is doing. So what Charlie Kirk was, I mean, that's kind of a shocking array of questions. So back to what James Lee said, this is the major influencer for the future of the conservative movement in the United States, and the future support of the state of Israel in this colonial settler project called Zionist project called Israel hangs in the balance of this future generation that is being commanded by people like Charlie Kirk. And this all just kind of unraveled in the last 6 weeks. Okay. So it's worth discussing. This is not a trivial thing. So again, watch the full discussion there. It's on Rumble of Kirk and Shapiro. It's very illuminating. Why did Charlie Kirk do this? He's been under tremendous pressure from people in MAGA, as has Trump, of what the hell are you backing Israel for with everything that they're doing? I mean, it's just insane what's happening. And I mean, if I just pull up my feed, which let's do this right now. Let's pull up my Twitter feed. This is just an average day. The atrocities that we have seen just in the last week are record levels in terms of bombing unarmed civilians in refugee tents and things like that. So this is just, look at some of the horrors here. This is on my feed right now, and there's just one after another just this week. What I said in my comment here is Israel using U.S. and U.K. weapons to bomb unarmed refugee tents on a beach. Sadistic psychopaths. No entity regime which systematically does this has a, quote, right to exist. In history, regimes have been dismantled for less. So why is this being allowed to happen? And we go on. Here's another one. can hear the people screaming in the background. Just this total screams. People living in tents after being made homeless. Look, there's one of the bombs caught on a still frame, an American bomb, laser guided. That's what Israel's dropping on kids, says Thomas Fassi. Here's another one. Look at this. According to people like, Tom Cotton, that's perfectly fine. It's permissible. Again, is another official, over more than 200,000 casualties. That's from the Israeli side. I mean, this is just disgusting. These are body parts they're scraping them off. I don't even want to show that. It's there. I had to repost it just because we can't look away from this stuff. It's disgusting. So again, someone here, free speech, but not for the 260 journalists killed by Israel in Gaza. So Charlie Kirk wasn't really into that free speech. Again, this is the bodies being scraped off. I don't want to show that. You can go and see it for yourself. 680,000 Palestinians killed in Gaza. 380 infants under 5, 99,000 children over 5. Israel isn't defending himself. And this is a new data set that's been released here. You can go, that's on Memo. There are others too. I mean, we reported on some of this in the past. But it's just unbelievable. And there's a clip from Tom Cotton. I mean, there's just so much of this stuff. I don't know how anybody can remain objective. If you're still neutral at this point on this, or you think this is the Palestinians' fault, then again, there's 680,000 lives erased. Hidden death count. That's a new publication. Hugely undercounted. Okay. I don't know if we have the Tom Cotton clip here, but we'll see if we can just pull that up, and then we'll go to break in a minute. I'm trying to be as comprehensive as we can in what we're showing you, so you have the full scope of the issue. But let me just bring you to this, okay? And that is the gray zone. And so we'll drop this for the moment, and then we're going to connect here with what the gray zone are doing. And this is an important story here. This is a very important story. We'll bring this up on screen right now. And it goes like this. Very, very important. Again, this is co-authored by Max Blumenthal and Anya Parampil, his wife, both excellent journalists. And look at this. Gray zone headline. Charlie Kirk refused Netanyahu funding offer, was, quote, frightened by pro-Israeli forces before his death, friend reveals. All documented here. And so it's funny how Netanyahu came out right after Charlie Kirk was snuffed out and was waxing lyrical about how great he was and so forth. But this story tells a different story here. They put the move on Turning Point and Kirk apparently didn't want to be owned by the Israeli government directly. I mean, it's one thing to have the billionaire donor class. It's another thing to have a mafia boss come and make an offer you can't refuse. You see. It's here. Kirk had come to loathe the Israeli leader Netanyahu, regarding him as a, quote, bully, the source said. Kirk was disgusted by what he witnessed inside the Trump administration, where Netanyahu sought to personally dictate the president's personnel decisions and weaponize Israeli assets like billionaire donor Miriam Adelson to keep the White House firmly under its thumb. Okay, and it goes on and on. At Turning Point USA, the rift with Israel widens. So you can see, and the Epstein story obviously was a big factor here, is the Trump being forced to cover up the fact Jeff Epstein was a Mossad, quote, CIA asset that was blackmailing top U.S. politicians, including presidents. So this is a high-stakes game, folks. Charlie Kirk was right in the middle of a high-stakes geopolitical game with a mafia state leaning on him, a mafia state. Netanyahu is a representative of the Israeli mafia, the international mafia, Zionist mafia. That's what Israel is. It's a haven for criminals. And look at what they're doing right now. If you have any doubt as to what the state of Israel is or does, just look at what they're doing in Gaza. And tell me that's not criminal. Tell me that is not the behavior of a mafia state. How else are we supposed to put this? I don't know how else to put it. And when you see things like this, you really have to reconsider what we're looking at. You really do. So, as I said on other programs, I think this was a professional hit. Whether they finger the right person or whether there's a fall guy, that's beside the point. It looks to me like a professional hit. And who does professional hits? State actors. Which state actor is engaged in the most political assassinations in the last few years right now? It's Israel. Has Israel done political assassinations on U.S. soil or on other countries' foreign soils? Yes, they have. Arguably, there's a very strong case made by many historians and researchers regarding the assassination of John F. Kennedy. And Robert F. Kennedy, for that matter, but especially JFK. But we don't have to go back that far. And it's funny that this happened on 9/11, symbolically or not. You can decide. But these things are worth pointing out. So all of this stuff is going on. We're just wanting to lay out some of the compelling realities here. Okay. And also to the fact that you are being completely deceived and lied to most of the time by government agencies, by the mainstream media, by the Israeli lobby, and these sort of interests. And just because Trump is president doesn't mean that there's not going to be heavy pressure to steer the narrative on this Charlie Kirk story in a certain direction. That includes on federal agencies like the FBI and the ATF. Okay. Heavy pressure. And you have all these pro-Israeli Zionists within the Trump administration. So do we know for sure? No, we don't. Is there a lot of circumstantial evidence? Yes, a lot. A lot. A lot more than anti-woke sentiment that somehow, or pro-trans shooter, or whatever the stuff that's being pushed out here. There's a lot of circumstantial evidence. My personal opinion, you can't ignore that. You can't. This is a high-stakes game. High-level political assassinations throughout history. It's not a trivial thing. High-stakes game. And there is no higher stakes right now than what's happening as we speak in the Middle East. Israel requires U.S. backing to do what it's doing. And anything that challenges that or puts that at risk, that's a problem for the biggest, most vicious organized crime syndicate on the planet, which the U.S. is part of. Let's face it. So again, Charlie Kirk is political cannon fodder. He was used while he was alive, and he will be used after that continuously by the same forces in order to polarize, to divide, to stoke fear and division. This is what he was used for when he was running Turning Point, and it's what they will use him for after the fact. And if anyone has a problem with me or anybody saying that, that's your problem. These are the objective facts. Like them or not. If you don't like them, I'm sorry. This is not the show for you. But these are things that I think are important and we need to be thinking about. Let's take a break right now. And when we come back, this is a way longer segment than I planned to do. I was going to knock this out in 40 minutes. It turned out to be an hour and a half. So sorry. And big apologies to my cohort at ACR. Hopefully they'll stick around for Overdrive. I'm Patrick Henningsen, your host. This is the Sunday Wire, episode 560. We're talking about the most important issues of the day, and this is no exception. We'll come back in just a few minutes. Until then, enjoy the music of Peyote for President. We'll see you in a minute.
Left unpainted, all of the games they left unplayed, all the laughter in the playground, all of the arts they never made. Ghost faces of a million Palestinian children. All of those voices left in silence, all with their names written in kind, lest their bodies pulled from rubble, lifeless empty dolls to find. Ghost faces of a million Palestinian children. What are the songs they've never written? What are the words they'll never sing? And the darkness of the nightmare inescapable that brings the ghost faces of a million Palestinian children. I hear the crying helpless children, God's most precious and most dear. I hear them begging for the reason, how could you ever leave us here? I close the eyelids of a million Palestinian children. So what do we really stand for? Is this how our future's made? And when we ever find the courage to stand up unafraid, I tear away the persecution of the Palestinian children. Rise up and be the guardians of the Palestinian children. Respect our obligation, every creed and every nation, cause every soul deserves protection. Save the Palestinian children. Save the Palestinian children.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Sunday Wire. I'm Patrick Henningsen, your host. We are streaming out live on X, Rumble, YouTube, Facebook Live, as well as BitChute, as well as the audio streams after the program if you subscribe to any of those. Again, I'm Patrick Henningsen, your host. Thank you for hanging with us. Very important discussion. Obviously, we're just, giving you a good sort of rounded, analysis, if you will, my personal opinion on these things. Try to keep it based in real politic. And we're going to be pissing off people on the right, pissing off the Zionists, and maybe pissing off the left as well. And I've always believed, and it's probably why why we struggle in the algorithms, because I've always believed that if you're pissing off the left and the right, you're probably doing a pretty good job, whatever that is, in terms of media or political commentary. But anyway, without further ado, I want to bring on some of my colleagues onto the program. Bryan McClain, aka Hesher, is joining us on the live stream. Hello, Hesher. How you doing?
I'm a little tired, to be quite frank, Patrick. I've been just monitoring these feeds and checking out what everybody else is doing, and making sure I had 10 gazillion different links for Boiler Room that we did on Thursday that ended up being a 4-hour program. And then woke and immediately after that, like, had to crawl straight into bed. And when I woke up, it was like, oh, we've got the killer, we've got the rifle, we've got, when I went to sleep, it was like, we've got some, Matt Wallace encouraged AI grok enhancements of the fuzzy picture that from a Ring camera that may or may not be the assassin. And it was just like, okay, guys. And I wake up and sure enough, yep. And then it just explodes and tumbles and snowballs down from there into, normal kid, normal social. For once, there were some anti-anomalies on this, which we can get into in more detail later. But like a family that actually has a normal looking social media presence and the public knows who they are in the town. Like that's, one of the normal things you would expect to see, when usually what we get is a bunch of abnormal things, social media accounts that are closed down, only screenshots of them, etc. But anyways, it was like I started working that show page as soon as I woke up that next day, and I've just been dumping supplemental links into it ever since, and it's turned into a monster of a show page. I don't, you probably need AI to analyze all the links that we have on this, and I'm personally just not surprised and very disappointed that so many people have reverted to believing whatever the mainstream media says and the government says at this point.
Yeah. That roller coaster where they had all these assumptions before they even had a suspect, in which really pissed me off. I mean, this was to me a very ham-fisted kind of narrative operation, but it doesn't take much these days. You just flood the zone with all sorts of chaos and wild speculation across the board, and then they present this, oh no, we've got him this time, this is the one, and Trump says it's the one, so therefore no trial needed, right? Everybody's already no ballistics, no forensics, no prints. It's the guy, and that's it, right? That's the narrative, basically. So Ruckus, Adam Clark's joining us as well. So Ruckus, Hesher's given us his initial reactions. Obviously, the Boiler Room tried to crunch this thing late in the week, and was then upended by this new shooter. But your first impressions and your thoughts now on the Charlie Kirk.
Well, of course, I was there with Hesher for the 4-hour marathon on Thursday, but the day before, I was on with Sam Cheney for Weaponized News. And did we lose Patrick? I hope not.
We might have. I guess we're hosting now.
Regardless, so I
sorry about that. I hit the eject button by accident. Go ahead.
It happens. So before the 4-hour post analysis that we did on Boiler Room, I was with Sam Cheney on Weaponized News for a couple hours, and we did the thing. But that morning on Wednesday, I had woken up, and first of all, I'd already missed an entire day because I thought it had been Tuesday. But I was already fuming very early on over the poor, bizarre, bad take reaction, like this isn't good kind of feel with the young lady who was stabbed in the throat, and all of the narratives that were starting to spin wildly out of control with that. And it was in that environment that the thing happened with Charlie, and my immediate reaction was I said a bad word. It was the F word, followed by "this isn't good." I said it out loud, and that was my initial reaction. And at the end of the day, ultimately, that's still my reaction. That no matter, we could sit here forever and analyze like every single freaking angle about it, but no matter how you slice it, the ultimate result, what this all means at the end of this isn't good. This is not good. Bad timing. I don't like the environment that this sort of thing took place in because of what was happening with X before this. All the things we're seeing under the second administration, under Trump, of course, the Israel thing and the slow allowing of that discussion right before all this stuff happened, which is something Hesher's been keeping a very close track on since the Nick Fuentes on the stage, the yay and doing the hooded thing on Alex Jones's show. Meanwhile, some of us old school conspiracy theorists who are a fan of Bill Cooper are like screaming at our computers and into comments and into voidness, things that Alex Jones might normally be pointing out back in the day, like, hey guys, you know, isn't that weird that the guy's name was Charlie Kirk and that kind of has like a Freemason meaning? Isn't it weird that the way he died and the pose he did was exactly the Entered Apprentice and he was shot in the throat? What's with all the 33s? Some of these bizarre questions that if Bill Cooper was still with us, he would say, clearly, folks, this was a sign and we know who did it. It was the same people who did JFK. So, you know, but these things are all ignored. Instead, we're like, no, that wasn't the shooter. The shooter had a squeeze pistol. He was standing next to him. The guy behind him was giving hand signals and just all of that stuff is just a waste of your time. Ultimately, we need to like make sure that we don't get divided, which is what they want. Remember what this country was founded on. United we stand, divided we fall. And if we want to analyze anything, let's take a look at what you were analyzing brilliantly in the beginning segment there, Patrick, about we see the people running around saying, oh, Israel did it, but they don't offer any sort of actual evidence or proof. Instead, they go with all these weird, shady things, assumptions, and conspiracy theories rather than examining what the man really did, what his connections were. Like you broke it down like a true detective, true journalist, brilliant, and the world needs more people like you in times like this. I'm happy to be here, by the way. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming here. Scully, the Hypno Skull. I freaking saw Tim Pool praying to Charlie Kirk on his show. Yeah, there's a prayer vigils going on. Someone said they wanted him to lie in state in the Capitol or at the White House or something, you know, with the open casket or whatever. I mean, so it's the martyrdom of this, you know, fairly unremarkable political activist. He's not a public intellectual, not by any stretch of the imagination.
If it was truly Masonic, by the way, they'd cast him out to the ocean. So if they bury him at sea for no explained reason, I'm going to lose my mind and be like, what the heck is going on here, guys?
We're going to welcome Basil Valentine also onto the stream. Hello, Basil. Good to see you.
Good evening. Good evening, gentlemen. Yeah, good to see you all again.
I like what you've done to the library. I remember that's a real fixer-upper property there. The Anderall Castle. You've got that sort of back section. Yeah.
It's in the east wing of Valentine Towers. I am there.
Yeah. That great to have you
in
with
the
us.
In the old part of the big house, as we call it.
What's your impressions on this Charlie Kirk crisis phenomenon, assassination? It's not really an assassination because he didn't hold public office. It's a killing. It's a murder. Don't want to get into the nuts and bolts of.
Well, I think the conspiracy theories are going to run on for as long as they have on John F. Kennedy or 9/11, but that's for very good reason in those cases because the official narrative is such obvious balderdash. People are now saying online that the bloke who's been arrested doesn't look anything like the photos released by the FBI. Of course, it's all very neat that he was this sort of leftist transsexual activist or something, and that the gun or the bullets were engraved with messages. Very, very odd stuff. Strange that they found the gun in a wooded area. There are no photographs of the suspect with the gun. There's speculation online that in fact he was shot by his own security staff at short range. The patsy had absolutely nothing to do with it. Why was he bundled into the back of a an SUV and not an ambulance. A lot of speculation about who this recently employed security crowd were, and the hand signals they were giving off beforehand. The evidence against Israeli involvement is purely circumstantial, but then it would be at this point. We don't expect them to own up to it, or for a known Mossad hitman to be arrested. But he is known to have started to become critical of Israel, and in particular, his conversations with Ben Shapiro online have been replayed many times. Was this ethnic cleansing? He came under tremendous attack for continuing his friendship with people now described openly as anti-Semites like Tucker Carlson, and having people who question not only Israeli narratives but also aspects of what we have to call the wider Jewish power configuration. There's a clip of him saying that the Jewish billionaire donor class are responsible for the open border policies and some of the other neoliberal excesses that he railed against. Now, that's a no-go area. You're not allowed to say that if you're Charlie Kirk. You're not even really allowed to say that if you're Alex Jones. You're only allowed to say that if you're Stu Peters or something, So he had strayed off the reservation, and although he wasn't well known in this country, he carried a lot of weight, particularly with young conservatives. And if he had decided, woken up, as people say, to the horrors of the Zionist entity, and it can often be a case of scales falling from the eyes and people suddenly say, oh my God, I think I've been backing the wrong team this whole time, then that would have had a tremendous effect. The Zionists are well aware of the fact they've already lost the Democratic youth and Democratic base. It's only the older boomers that stick with the Chuck Schumer line. And if the same thing happened in the Republicans, then it would only be a matter of time for all their AIPAC bribery before the bottom fell out of support for Israel in the United States. So they couldn't have that happening. Now, as I say, we don't know the forensics of the whole thing yet. It'd be very interesting to see whether the bloke who's been arrested ever comes to trial. Normally, that's not allowed to happen. Or if it is, then it's some kind of show trial, like the Boston bombers. What is particularly interesting in terms of the circumstantial evidence that has turned up is the presence of this George Zinn bloke, who apparently saw the planes hit on 9/11, was there for the Boston bombing, and has turned up here again. So, there are more questions than answers, as they say. And for the moment, at least, I'm keeping an open mind. I mean, it's very unfortunate that if his opinion on Israel was changing, that Charlie didn't get a chance to live a few months longer and make that public. There's all this business about the invitation to Israel. That's what Netanyahu was crowing about. Interesting that it was actually the Jerusalem Post that first said he was dead, ahead of any other US news organization. And Netanyahu made 4 statements within 24 hours or something. And a mural of Kirk with angels' wings appeared in Tel Aviv within a matter of hours of his death. So, there's a lot of strange stuff going on around it. Yeah. Last piece of evidence, of course, was this apparently a book on the assassination of Charlie Kirk, which appeared on Amazon the day before he was killed. That has since disappeared, but there was a book, publication date September the 9th, appeared on Amazon. So, as far as I'm concerned, the jury is very much still out.
Yes, that's some shocking points you've run down there, including the mural and a little bit over the top of Netanyahu. Just a quick point of note for all of our guests and the audience. This is a comment I've flagged down here by Kirk Lazarus, masquerading as Albo Martinez Resurrection. Why engrave bullets you're not going to use since you shot at him? So that talking point about the bullets engraved with trans or LGBT, whatever, that turned out to be false. That was a fake story pushed out,
right?
Which is interesting that they that managed to push that out, like who pushed it out and how it was pushed out. That was to flood the zone, to misdirect people, to get them into the left, right, woke, anti-woke paradigm. And it turned out to be completely fake. I think it came via Trump, a Trump source.
There was some stuff with Crowder, too. Crowder was letting loose some stuff that turned out to be false. He was fed some information that allegedly he believed was real, and he just ran with it, and everybody picked up on it, and it pushed that narrative,
Thank you for pointing that out, Ruckus, because I was going to comment on that as well. Like Steve and all of these guys, okay? Steve and Crowder and all these YouTubers and podcasters and guys who basically make millions a year from their podcast, who when the you know what hits the fan, these people are pushing out fake news. All of these top people that everyone subscribes to, they're pushing out garbage that's used to basically divide the public and set people against each other, like literally political agitation being done at the top podcaster, so-called Con Inc. level. I don't know if Hesher, you have anything to say about that. That really pisses me off that these guys get away with this stuff.
No, this is one of the biggest red flags that we have. The fact that there has already been some sort of program, some sort of strategy, some sort of narrative being woven around this for some time now. And, I think back to the Tennessee school shoot up event, and just, I don't know, man. I don't know. I think that this narrative that we're being fed right now, and I mean, that thing that Crowder did and put out, he was getting glad-standed and shake-handed all around the podcast circuit. You know what I mean? Megyn Kelly was on his show telling him how, ever since you're exclusive this morning and blah, 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 and that's right around the time people stop paying attention, because, you know what I mean? 48 hours into something like this is when most people are going to stop paying attention now. And this is something that we pointed out back after in October of 2017. I've been going through our archives recently, dusting them off and really just looking at the titles and remembering the days and thinking about what happened on Boiler Room that week. And it really is a companion. They are companion shows. Like Pat and I, we don't, collaborate on Boiler Room and Sunday Wire, like what's going to be on it. Like, we just kind of know that we're looking at the same things, similar things, and we each have, our own directions, as do all our guests on both these shows. And, it was like after anyways, back in 2017, after Paddock, and we did exhaustive, that was probably the last exhaustive Daily Shooter event that I plugged everything into the taxonomy that we've built over the years, the who, what, when, where, why, maybe a how, and then all the anomalies, and then the mainstream narrative timeline, and then all the interviews that you could possibly capture, right? You just collect all this stuff. And after Las Vegas, it was like, holy crap, there's so much conspiracy candy, zone flooding happening here that I have to basically accept that, yeah, we kind of perfected the Daily Shooter analysis taxonomy, which I still am very proud of all of our work on that, but it's not going to work anymore. It's not going to mean anything, because these things are just getting more and more complicated. It's impossible as a citizen, and this is the most insidious part, it's impossible as a citizen to come up with your own analysis on these things. And the reason that it's impossible is because the federal government, federal law enforcement, local law enforcement, and whoever it is that hands the media, their allowable, Overton window talking point, yellow card, here's the yellow card wall. We're not going to pull you unless you go this far or start focusing on this and that and the other, is that we'll never know, because they redact everything. They don't make public the police reports. They don't make public the autopsies. They don't make public And I'm not saying we should have all these things right after something happens. Personally, myself, as a constitutional American, if something like that happens, I would like to see local sheriffs, local law enforcement deal with it, have a proper investigation, have it, fed into the justice system. A jury of peers decide what's going to happen to that person, that potential violent criminal, if they're convicted, and then that's carried out. And then at that point, the record should be wide open. And the same could be said for 9/11. The same could be said for JFK, MLK, RFK, John Lennon. We could go down the list.
Boston bombing,
right? All the school incidents,
Uvalde
all of
shooting.
those things should be completely available, at least to journalists and concerned citizens via FOIA report. And none of it is.
No,
none of it is. None of it. You can't get it. You've tried, Pat. Mark Anderson has tried. We know many journalists who have tried. We've seen what they've been sent by the government or the law enforcement, if they're sent anything, 70 pages of redactions, all this stuff classified. And what's the public left to do? Make up their own story.
Let me on that point, Hesher, the whole Sandy Hook farrago was because they didn't release anything for a year. And they wrapped it up, and it made it into a federal case, even though it was a state case, turned it into a federal case, and had it under the sort of national security envelope, buttoned up. And so what happened? Everyone started speculating, including Alex Jones. Okay. And then the speculation built up to the point where they had to start releasing stuff because they were under pressure. And they finally started releasing information, but not after like a long time, like 12 months or something. So, and then they get upset when everyone's conspiracy theorizing and speculating. Well, it's their own damn fault.
Yes.
Because they're not being transparent about it. And that goes for all of these high profile, provocative mass shooting or daily shooter style incidents or terror attacks, etc. It's the same thing. So, I mean, we have a problem, obviously, and we can't forget this comment by Ian Taff. Let's not forget Trump just renamed the Department of Defense to the Department of War. Okay, that also happened this week. I mean, so much has happened this week. They haven't spared anything for us, but those are important points you've made there as well. And also, I have to say there's all these annoying security experts. Have you seen them all over the news, you guys, on this? One of them is named Aaron Cohen, who I absolutely can't stand. He's Israeli. He's Fox's go-to guy. And I just have a couple of choice clips. I have to share this with you. Apologize for the recordings. They're literally camcorder off the plasma screen. So just because the stuff is running on the stream, on Fox and stuff like that. There's no other option. So here he is basically saying that the shooter got lucky, literally saying it's not a professional. He got lucky with a kill shot. And the second clip is even worse. But listen to this, you guys.
Part of your whole gig, Aaron Cohen, is to profile him, to make sure that you know what's going on here. Could this guy be profiled? What's the next step for investigators looking at this?
Well, so there's very good technical tools that have fallen into local law enforcement's lap. There's flock systems for cameras which allow license plates to be read. I'm sure that the Provo Police Department, who I recently spoke to about Gideon not long ago, Trace, we kicked him out an alert. I guaranteed them, and I actually made contact with them quietly to let them know that we were going to be ramping up the system for any additional attacks or copycat attacks out there, and shot that out to 20 more agencies who are on the pilot.
Oh, really?
There's a flock system which allows Those cameras are essentially placed around counties and around cities. They can read license plates. They don't monitor people's name and personal information like all they can.
Oh, well, that's okay
literally
then.
will get you a license plate. So if this individual jumped into a car, which he likely did, that'll get dropped into the investigation once they get a make on that, if possible. They can then start pinging cell phone towers to try and track down cell phones. That'll get thrown into the mix as they start closing in on the investigation. But really, I think the biggest concern now is hunting down this shooter. It could be a collapsed AR. It could have other pistols and weapons. It could have been, who knows, getting this guy in handcuffs and arrested. Everything else will fall into place afterwards. But there's an active threat out there, and he needs to be cuffed immediately.
Right. So roll out the police state using Israeli tech. Okay. And and it's not going to do the personal data. No, Israel does the personal data. That's how they're pinpointing the assassination of all these journalists in Gaza using this tech that he says doesn't do facial recognition. This is complete bullshit. Pardon my French.
Again, the speculation is that they've been listening into him over the last couple of weeks, private conversations with perhaps people like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson, and were aware of the fact that he was about to turn on Israel, and it was Zionist money that built Turning Point, and who has declared themselves the new leader of Turning Point USA? Ben Shapiro.
No kidding.
True? And the whole point that he's going to take up the cudgel and go on the speaking tours, and the whole point of Turning Point was that it was a Christian organization. At the end of the day, that was Kirk's big message. I'm a Christian and I believe in Christian values.
Oh, it's been upgraded then, Basil, to a Judeo-Christian organization.
There you go.
So here's listen to Aaron Cohen here. Listen to this one. Hold on, let me bring him back.
And was this did for all intents and purposes this person miss by hitting the neck?
Trace, my contention is that you don't have to be an assassin to be able to hit Charlie Kirk with a 223 or a 308 round. There's proficiency there. But it was a calm day. There wasn't a lot of wind out there. You just needed to spend some time at the range. We have guns in this country. You're never taking them away from Americans. It is our right to be able to defend ourselves. I wish there were more armed people in that crowd. It would have been the force multiplier we need. We arm our citizens in Israel.
Oh, did you hear that, you guys?
Yeah, there you go.
We arm our citizens in Israel. So he pivoted from being an American security commentator right there on a dime, pivots to being an Israeli pundit saying our citizens in Israel. I notice these things. I tend to notice these things, but other people are not noticing them. Clearly,
it is part of the multi-layered process. We just had a terror attack at a bus in Israel, and a civilian who just got his concealed permit ended up taking out that terrorist and saving lives. As far as the shot goes, wouldn't be surprised if the shot was aimed at the head, went into the neck or the top of the chest plate. Looks like the round might have bounced. You got to remember, sharpshooting or sniping or long gunning, according to my good friend Chief Jake Fisher in El Monte, has always been very clear about this. Long gunning is not a two-dimensional sport. It is a three-dimensional sport. And this individual, I believe, got lucky, and I think it could have gone south. But the fact that he managed to take down this jewel of an American, this individual needs to be hunted immediately and put down. And I think it's just a question of time until they get.
Oh, he just got lucky, Hesher, with long gunning. What a masterful analysis by Fox's #1 security pundit.
This is why the IDF aren't allowed to roll with their weapons chambered. They apparently don't know much about firearms.
I mean, he just got lucky there. So it wasn't a professional assassin. This wasn't a professional hit. It's just a guy kind of made his way onto the roof, and you just need to go to the range a couple of times. That's what Aaron Cohen just said. Just need to go to the range a couple mornings, and get lucky.
Okay, this one is just like, okay, I think it's a red herring. The whole how professional was it? Could a normal, 22-year-old with a trans roommate, Trantifa style person pull that off? I personally, the one thing he did say there that I would agree with is, yeah, 200 yards is not that hard of a shot. And anyone with, a week of like serious training at the range could learn how to do that with a Mauser 30-06. It is possible. I do not discount that as a possibility, but I'm just not going to waste much time thinking about it, because it just doesn't, it feels like I'm being stuck in a cul-de-sac and trying to examine, something that's very minor on a much larger system of systems. I do have my questions about that rifle. They're telling us that they've confirmed that that is the rifle. They've got a picture of it. It's a Mauser bolt action long rifle. It's very capable of doing that shot. I think it's pretty obvious that he was not wearing any sort of soft armor. He was definitely not wearing a plate carrier. Alex Jones's hot take right when he saw it was that, oh, he got shot in the chest and maybe the bullet fragmented and went upward. And again, when you watch the close-up footage, I'm sorry if you did watch the close-up footage, it was pretty nasty. It didn't look fake to me. I know a lot of people are wondering if the whole thing is fake, and that of course really grinds some people's gears, but I'm just like, I can't discount anything at this point. I've seen so much shenanigans and I already know what's going to happen. I'm not going to get a full police report. I'm not going to get an autopsy. I'm not going to get any sort of forensics. All I'm going to get is media narrative and social media, sound bites and conspiracy theories. So it's like, I did notice that on the rifle, many people have noticed that the scope was not mounted in a way a normal shooter would mount a scope on there. It's the ocular lens is too far back in the rings. There's two rings that hold a scope on a rifle, and the scope can slide forward and backward in there and twist, right? So you can get it lined up level, and you can set your what they call your focal distance from your optic lens. And it looked to me like it was slid all the way back in the rails, which number one would make it hard to get a good sight picture. Number two, make it hard to keep a good sight picture. And number three, probably smack you in the eye when you break the shot. And I'm also seeing really stupid stuff. Some of this came from the FBI presentation the next day on what was it? I guess 2 days later on the 12th. There's all this talk about how the rifle got to the roof, how it got off the roof, and these insane theories about, oh, well, he pre-staged. Here's some of the just ludicrous stuff that I've heard that we're supposed to just accept from the media. He pre-staged it on the roof. He climbed up on the roof. He used it. He then broke it down, took it apart, put the barrel inside his pant legs, ran back into the woods, reassembled it, wrapped it in a towel, and then scurried off. Are you kidding me? Watch someone break down a Mauser on Rumble. You probably can't watch it on YouTube, but watch someone break. This rifle was made in the late 1800s or early 1900s, and this round, it's still a very popular hunting round. The 30-06 was developed after World War I. So I just have a hard time seeing someone in modern times choosing that for that purpose. There are so many other things that someone with a serious intent might pick. But hey, is it all plausible? I don't know. It sure seems implausible. Lots of it seems implausible to me. But at the same time, it's nothing that we can go on. It proves and disproves absolutely nothing.
Nothing. Yeah. I mean, if this is a court of law, if this is a proper crime scene investigation, we can't go on anything at the moment. And that's important. I mean, journalistically, that's the correct position to take. Everything else is speculation. We're free to do analysis on all of this stuff if that's what anyone wants to do, but you can't make a definitive conclusion about really anything, much less say that the perp is the guy who did it. That's the furthest thing from the truth at the present moment. Did you guys catch Alex Jones's reaction to this straight out of the gates? And we're going to play this. And by the way, David Icke totally went for Alex, basically hardcore. And that was pretty surprising, because usually you don't see that level of a rift in the independent media. Here's one of Alex's reactions to the Charlie Kirk killing.
This is dangerous. This is a war. This is a war. This is a war. This is the war. This is dangerous. This is a war. This is a war. This is a war.
He's basically saying we're at war with the left. I don't have the exact clip. There's so many of them floating online, but so he immediately framed it as, this is sort of the left, the radical left here, and we're at war. Let me see if I've got this one here. I'm not sure.
When I saw this happen and I got the report for Crowder from the ATF, it fit exactly in with what we saw 2 weeks ago in Minnesota and the rest of us. This is 8 pro-trans shooters, anti-fascist shooters, as they call it, because we're all Hitler, in a row. And we've got all these serial killer groups, you name it. This is their mentally ill army that they.
Okay, guys, he just quoted Crowder and the ATF. That turned out to be fake, right? Am I wrong?
That was the one. No, that was the one. Yeah.
So Alex, with his mega audience, ran with that. And look what happened. So how many millions of people believe that there was trans things carved on the ammo? Millions.
Tens of millions, probably,
Tens of millions. This is
exactly
the worst piss poor journalism. I mean, these people, they don't care, actually, because all they do is just talk 24 hours a day, and then they'll just come and pivot and say, oh, maybe we got that wrong, like the next day. Meanwhile, the impression's been made on everybody politically. These people don't give a flying, you know what? If there's if people will end up getting killed, injured as a result of what some of these pundits are pushing, very divisive narratives that Civil War type narratives, when in fact the circumstantial evidence, the overwhelming circumstantial evidence is that this is a professional hit. And who does professional hits? What was the political, who benefits? Who would have had a problem with Kirk? Might it have been Israeli interests? I mean, it's a legitimate argument. But Alex won't make that argument. Will he? Basil, will Alex even go there? I doubt it.
No, I mean, it is reminiscent of the JFK assassination, a public execution, and that's usually a demonstration of power, rather than sort of the old lone random gunman, which just inherently I'm very reluctant to buy. This was the very deliberate silencing of an important voice in the United States and a sort of reminder who's in charge, rather than, I think, the actions of the old lone nut. It's very, very rarely that it's the lone nut, but the lone nut is the easiest one to frame.
Hesher, your thoughts on that?
This whole thing is exactly kind of what I was alluding to when I was talking about Las Vegas. It's like, and every event we've seen since then, pretty much, there's like a daily shooter suspect for every confirmation bias identity politic you could possibly imagine now. And that became super obvious when the trans shooter became a thing. It was like, oh, okay. You can almost just smell the baton handoff between the different administrations when you see the narratives behind the daily shooter programs now. It's like, oh, these are, you know what I mean? Back in the day, they were clearly designed to demonize Arabs, Muslims, and right-wing extremists. And now they're being cast on every identity politic, every racial class, everything you could possibly think of.
That's right. I mean, under the Biden administration, suddenly it was white supremacists, white nationalists that were the biggest threat.
Yep.
As you say, the baton has now been passed to, now that there's a Republican administration, to trans activists. Netanyahu's been conjuring up a new fabricated synthetic demon in this form of Islamo-Marxism. He's trying to on American television. He's been trying to say that this guy and somehow the resistance in Gaza, for example, are linked. I mean, it's really, really bizarre stuff. But as usual, the attempt is through a tremendously traumatic act, worth bearing in mind the sort of trauma-based mind control aspects of this. He's trying to direct American minds in a particular way, with always one that serves his interests, and once again manages to start demonizing Palestinians as a result of this.
Yeah, here's well, I don't know. We'll bring this up on screen again. Here's Alex Jones. I mean, we're not picking on Alex, but he is very high profile, and everything he puts out goes viral.
Less than an hour ago, Charlie Kirk was out in Utah at a major university, thousands of people in attendance, and they say they have an older man in custody. You see Charlie shot. You see a big concussion. Maybe it's a bulletproof vest causing it. Perhaps the bullet that bounced off that one is carotid artery, but there's blood just spewing everywhere. From what I saw, there are rumors online that he's dead. If he's not dead, it is a miracle. Pray for him and pray for his family. But I keep explaining,
okay. Let me go back to that. Hold on.
With a sword in his hand of information war. Going out to all these places, having these great debates. People say, oh, he's not hardcore enough. He's there to get people to wake up, get a register to vote Republican. That was his role, and he was a champion, and Trump wouldn't have gotten reelected without him. And now he's definitely fought for his life. And when I saw the footage, he's probably made the jump into hyperspace, but I'm not saying that's 100%, but he is feared dead. I'm not scared to be killed when I do public events and things, but I can do so much more digitally or hit and run just popping up in public. I have no doubt I'd probably be dead or been shot, at least wounded, if I announced things that Charlie did. That's why I strategically didn't do it. And not out of fear of getting shot, I just was like, I can do so much more writing and covering things and videos. Because when you're in this clown of the left saying kill everybody, they're shooting up Catholic churches and stabbing white girls and because they're white and all the rest of it. This is dangerous. This is a war.
Okay, so the stabbing, again, this is right on the back end of the stabbing. So the stabber, who clearly was mentally deranged, probably on drugs or meds, was he a self-identified member of the, quote, left? That's not confirmed, but Alex is pushing that was a race stroke left-right thing. It's just you stacking one on top of the other.
This is a war. This is a war. This is the war. The woman that spits on Ed Martin and says, I hope you die or whatever. That's who people are. And they wound up a bunch of crazies. So that's what Podesta called for in August 2000. If Trump was won, they were going to stage civil war. And then when Trump won again, they said, okay, we're going with it. The no kings, all of it. So this is it. Get ready. They're terrorists. They mean business. So the Justice Department's got to move hyperspeed to arrest the leadership. That's the main focus. Not Trump getting sucked into this false flag on Russia with the drones, just like Zelensky 2 years ago got caught shooting missiles into Poland.
Okay, so Alex, instead of calming it down, he's amping it up. This is war. Trump should use the federal government to go after the opposition's leadership. So he's created a whole story here, and trying to basically rally his troops to basically go to war. So instead of calming it down, right? Instead of calming it down, he is amping it up. And so they've radicalized the left with wokeism over the years, and then they've radicalized the right with anti-wokeism. And the result is this. It's war, it's civil war. I mean, these people, what really pisses me off about these people who are pushing this narrative is that the big pushers of the narrative have monetized this sort of hysteria. They're making money out of it. They've monetized the heightening of political division, and which will lead to political violence. And then what? They feel safe to do it because what their guys in power, because Trump's in power. They think, oh, the federal government's got our back on this. The FBI's got our back on this, so we can incite. Could that be considered incitement? I mean, it's a level of incitement on the spectrum of incitement. Maybe it's not directly yelling fire in a crowded theater, but he's certainly not helping the situation in my estimation, by speculating that this was a left-right assassination, which there's no evidence of that, right? So then what? Where does that leave us trying to evaluate this objectively? Ruckus, any thoughts?
Did you catch he gave himself away there in the middle of all that? He said that there were things that Charlie Kirk was saying and was willing to say that he wasn't, Alex Jones, for strategic purposes. I think what you just described was the strategic reasons that he was discussing. It's because of the money, and he didn't want to lose sponsors or get in trouble or whatever.
Who knows?
And also, because I was curious when you played the beginning of the clip earlier, was that a loop where he said war 3 times in a row, or he really said it 3 times in a row? He said it that way.
He said, I thought it was a loop because it was a short clip, the first one I played, but then on that long clip, he did repeat it.
Yep. And the thing is,
in triplicate.
Yeah, and that's very important right there that he had to repeat it. He's definitely part of all of this stuff, in my personal opinion now. This is just more smoking gun evidence for this conspiracy theorist right here. But anyways, all that aside, you can't deny the fact that all of the big conservative voices, including the conservative alternative media voices, basically if you're one of those folks, the MAGA crowd or close to them, and you had the blue check mark next to your name and ran with this type of stuff, they all also immediately came out saying the exact same 3 words. This is war. I can't find it, but there's plenty of examples of it. In fact, it's probably in the show notes for Boiler Room Hesher, correct me if I'm wrong, where there's a screenshot of all of the people and all of their immediate posts and all the big blue check marks saying all the same thing. This is war. This is war. This is war. And then our friend and colleague, the Odd Man Out, shout out to him, was discussing or pointing out on Facebook earlier about how people were commenting that America has changed. Nothing is ever going to be the same again. You keep hearing this talking point over and over again. And that's the exact type of reaction and the talking point that was coming from the mainstream media at the time, right in the aftermath of the towers being hit on 9/11 in 2001. So I'm just like, the parallels between the way people are reacting, i.e. How they're being socially engineered to react, is quite telling. And it all just leads to the ultimate thing, which I keep flashing on my screen here. The 1984, the discussion about how they changed the Department of War and all that. That's straight out of Big Brother. And then that guy running around promoting Gideon. I mean, come on. Again, straight out of 1984. It doesn't get any more Orwellian than all of this, does it, Patrick?
No. Acapulco Elvis, B-52 diplomacy is what Ms. Lindsey Graham wants. Yeah, well taken, the point there, of course. Alex Jones, I mean, listen, when all your sponsors are, survival, firearms related, storable foods, and then you're using your platform to call for a civil war, or basically say this is war, this is war, this is war. There has to be a little bit of a problem with that, a big problem with that, in fact. And, pointing that out should not be controversial. I don't think if you consider yourself to be conservative or libertarian or Republican or whatever. I personally think a lot of this stuff is, fabricated, exaggerated, but at some point it can become real. It only takes a couple of incidents to really, that was my problem with putting troops on the street to do law enforcement, because it only takes one member of the public to get injured or killed or shot by a military person, that all hell breaks loose. All hell breaks loose domestically, or vice versa. Somebody hurts a soldier or kills a soldier in the line of, quote, duty on the streets of Baltimore, because Trump deployed them to stop petty crime or whatever. And then all hell breaks loose because the right will be basically calling for, a fascist revival at that point. Let's
Well,
send drones in. Let's snuff them out with predator drones. All these gang members. Oh, there's MS-13 in that building there. Do in Israel. Take the building out. Do in Israel. There's people on the right in the Trump camp that would go that far if the opportunity arose. Trust me. They'll say it publicly. That's the atmosphere we have in America, where people are free to say these things, and these are people that are in weighty positions. They're not trivial. These are not like random pundits talking like this. Deport them, arrest them. We're talking about deporting American citizens now.
Well, I mean, Rubio has jumped on it, hasn't he? And said that you might have your passport taken away if you criticize Israel. And of course, a bill was rushed through Congress in the immediate aftermath of Kirk's assassination, which similarly outlaws criticism of Israel for American citizens. So just a coincidence, that nothing to worry about.
What does the shooter gain? Basil, Hesher, Ruckus, quick fire round. What does the shooter gain? We ask this for all daily shooter events, of course. It's kind of a fundamental question. No manifesto, no 4chan, 8chan action. Basil, what does the shooter gain by destroying his entire life, his family, and his future?
Well, that all depends on who it is. If the shooter is in fact the patsy, then I suppose
good question.
The idea is that this traditional Christian conservative voice has been silenced, and that particular faction have demonstrated in the most gruesome way possible that they're willing to use violence to achieve their ends. But if it isn't the patsy, and I'm, as I said, extremely dubious about who did it, well, then the answers as to who benefits become much more complex. Like I said, Ben Shapiro's taken over, wants to take over Turning Point USA. A new martyr has been made as well, hasn't it? The legacy of Charlie Kirk and who he was is now going to be sort of embalmed, gilded, and enshrined forever. And I fear that it will be some form of, and I use the term with reservation, Christian Zionism. I think actually a contradiction in terms. You can't be a Christian and a Zionist at the same time. But I think, well, we've already seen indeed from Netanyahu and his cohorts that just before Charlie, if indeed he did, strayed too far off the reservation, a seal can now be put on him and who he was, and he can be held up as this wonderful champion for Israel. And if he'd lived another 6 months and the worm had genuinely turned, then that would no longer be the case. His poster, his picture was much in evidence at the Tommy Robinson organized Unite the Kingdom rally in London yesterday. My God, what an extraordinary spectacle that was. It featured, get this, guys, you can hardly believe it. Well, first of all, there was not everyone at all, by no means, but there was a small coterie of demonstrators chanting, you can shove your Palestine up your arse. Forgive me for the language. That was quoted by David Collier, one of Britain's most ardent Zionists. And he tweeted that back out. And then extraordinarily, a group of Maoris who had been flown over by Robinson, perhaps their airfares were paid for by Elon Musk, who popped up on the big screen to give a message of support to Robinson. The Maoris took to the stage and ripped up a Palestine flag, which, when you consider that they themselves have been the victims of colonization, then that really is just about the most retarded thing imaginable.
Yeah, all you dropped Tommy Robinson in there, Tony. By the way, just on UK Column on Friday, I did a little history segment at the end. The Cross of St. George. Okay, St. George, his father was a Turk, his mother was a Palestinian. St. George spent the most of his life in Palestine. He's venerated as a Palestinian hero, fought the Roman oppressors. He's Palestinian. So St. George, which Tommy Robinson likes to wrap himself in, is a Palestinian.
Patrick,
Square that circle.
The shooter's last name, by the way, is Robinson, and apparently the suspect lives in St. George, Utah, near Zion National Park. Can't make this.
Yeah,
up.
I did catch that. Yeah, I
Whoa!
know.
Holy
I know.
smokes, Ruckus! I mean,
This is what I'm telling
already.
you. There's way too many
Stop.
things. And the guy's named Tyler. Obviously, if you know anything about Freemasonry, that's the senior official
Oh, yes.
carrying a sword who stands
well
guard
spotted,
at the
yes.
door of the lodge, which is supposed to keep out Cowans and eavesdroppers. I think that's the word. Yeah.
Is there any 33 number dropped into this?
There've been lots
He
of
waited
33
33
Yeah.
hours to reveal the name of the suspect, and then Charlie had 3 of the Trump hats that say 47 laid out in front of him. So 3 11s, 33, and the suspect was 22. Both of those are master numbers. One is the master builder and the master teacher. It's all related to Freemasonry stuff. It's wild, man. It's crazy.
Don't
I'm like,
even
how do you
start
make this
with
stuff up? It's
the
pretty nuts.
numerology, Ruckus. This is what makes our head spin. Hesher, your thoughts? What did the shooter? What would it benefit from? This is the problem with the motive. You know, think about it. Besides what we think it is.
Yeah.
I mean, how you know?
Well,
I know
Cynthia
it's a
asks,
no-brainer, but
Cynthia asks a good question. What would the quote unquote shooter kid? Why would the quote unquote shooter kid destroy his entire future? And okay, let's just pretend for a second everything's above board with this narrative that we're given, and we do have a legal process go down, and we are given evidence to prove everything that the media is saying right now, or expel the misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation that they claim to not like. Right? Let's just say all that happens, and that this was some sort of recently internet radicalized Antifa style, ally to the militant wing of the LGBTQIA. Did you like that? That was quite a word salad. I'm impressed with it myself. Let's just say all that is the fact, right? What does the person gain from it? Well, the person's a schizophrenic lunatic, probably on SSRIs and other drugs. And by the way, that would be something we would want to see disclosed in these reports too. The human toxicology on the person, the psychology write-up, the toxicology write-up, what medications were they on? Go to Able Child if you want to read more about that stuff. It's fascinating and something we've been talking about for over a decade now. So that person gains in their sick, twisted mind, they gain notoriety, they gain infamy in their community of people, if you will, and really nothing more than that. Or they also get the hero complex of the mass media telling them for the last 8 years that the people that he hates, is supposed to hate, are literally Hitler, literally Nazis, literally white supremacists. You know what I mean? So it's like in a sick, twisted mind like that, who's had an NPC media injected psychology, that's what they gain. If it's not that, and it's the other thing that we're afraid it is, what that person gains is a pat on the back, their paycheck, and knowing that they've done their part to do whatever it is that whoever employs them wants. And that effect, my friends, I think was illustrated by the whole Civil War comments. That's what this is pushing towards. This is about radicalizing people on the right, using culture war, perceived loss of the culture war, or perceived loss of the country due to the effects of culture war, so that we'll be at each other's throats. And who is it that's going to fight this civil war? By the way, have you gone to the grocery store in America lately? I don't see a lot of people looking like they're going to be fighting in a civil war. So, do we really want to push this rhetoric? Because I think we all know and love a lot of people around us who are not capable to fight in a civil war, or even, have any concept of what that might entail.
What it entails is, if you have sporadic unrest And then that gives the federal government carte blanche to ramp up the police state to new and spectacular levels of surveillance and with pulling back our rights, basically. And that's just been a pattern through various administrations for the last 30 years. Ruckus, I see you nodding, and any other comments?
100%. I'm like, visualize in your head the Leonardo DiCaprio getting up out of his chair and pointing when Patrick said that right there.
Yeah, so there it is. Shapiro becomes new head of a conservative Christian organization. Wow. I mean, you couldn't make that up, right? If that happened.
I heard about that and I did some digging. That's not like an official thing, but
No,
the general, yeah, the idea
It's
is
a
that
rumor.
he's picking up the mantle by doing the same type of thing that Charlie was doing. But the way people latched onto that, again, this is what we see over and over again. They'll just take it and they'll put their little siren on X and they'll say breaking in capital letters and just report that as though it's fact. Ben Shapiro is bought, Daily Wire is bought out, Turning Point. You saw those headlines and then like millions of views, no retractions. Did Alex Jones retract what he said? Did Steven Crowder? Actually, Steven Crowder had to come out and retract something. To the right side, you should probably consider doing retractions because that's what the left is doing right now. And just in case they come back into power during the next administration or the one after that, you might be wishing that you had retracted some of the stuff you've been saying. But Stephen King has even been retracting some of the stuff he said in error. So it's always take the high ground and just don't even report on it till you know for a fact. And if you say something wrong, come out and say, oh my God, I'm so sorry, everybody. It's very important for you to know I was wrong and here's the truth. But who the F does that anymore, right?
Yeah. And yeah, good, all good points, Ruckus. Of course, that's what we all should be doing that. And we do. And I can speak for everybody in this room right here, this virtual room. I think we do. And we have done for a very long time. And we will continue to into the future. Mormon Freemasonry, coupled with this comment, Utah was supposed to be the new Zion. He's talking to Ruckus there, and Ruckus pointed out a lot of the symbolism, as well as previous commenters said that there's an LDS branch of the CIA. That's true. That's very true. So there's that side of things. Utah being used for this incident, for this event.
It's got a big tech area with the data center, right?
What data centers? Yeah. Basil, go ahead.
Well, I've just discovered that Tyler Robinson himself has pleaded not guilty and is refusing to cooperate with law enforcement. Talking head on Fox News said, but everyone around him is cooperating. What? I mean, if they've got him banged to rights, they've got the gun, they've got apparently his minister and his father who turned him in. What would be the point of him denying it at this point?
Yeah. So a not guilty plea. This is interesting. Reminds me of the Boston bomber case as well. That's just what a ridiculous circus that became. So yeah, I mean the engagement, you guys, today has been like way more than we normally get, and we've been getting a lot of comment engagement. It's literally uncontrollable, the amount of comments coming in on YouTube and Rumble right now. I mean, we're into the thousands of comments. I mean,
I've been watching the scroll go up and down, and I'm like getting seasick. So I'll attest to that.
Me too. Insane. So I want to say thank you to our viewers and our listeners on the different platforms for your engagement. We're trying to pick some of the best comments, obviously, and we there's so many, so we literally can't show even all the best ones we can't show it. So we missed a few, so our apologies for that. And this one's interesting. Ian Taff, if the shooter kid is MK Ultra, his ambition is no doubt removed. Yeah, technically that might be the case. We can't write off these things, obviously, especially with what we know historically. So
hey, real quick, does anyone have any updated information? Have we learned more about like any actual autopsy type information? Like, did the bullet enter his throat or did it go across it and slash it? On
the ricochet, from the chest. He was wearing a bulletproof vest, and it might have ricocheted. I don't know about any of that. Hesher, have you heard anything or seen anything on that?
No, I'm just curious why it is I'm seeing pictures of him in his casket, like 36 hours from the event, and why I'm seeing non-law enforcement people like break in the crime area, in the crime scene. Like, what was that? Like
Taking
Basil
the camera
mentioned
down right behind him.
Mm-hmm. Yep, like Basil mentioned, the SUV. I mean, none of these things explain anything, but they all seem anomalous to me. Like, how does that happen? Like, you've what the hell's going on here?
There's stuff on social media saying Turning Point USA have a video of the shooting, which shows numerous people in the crowd being involved, and there, of course, was at least one person who appeared to jump up in celebration at the event.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't, again, we don't know yet. I haven't seen that video.
I saw that video, and it's weird. And none of it proves anything. It's all just weird. You've got the guy in the crowd acting as a distraction. You've got people outing him for previous, high profile things he's been involved with and associations and his background. It's just like, it's too much. This is too much data. And the thing is, like, if anything like this had happened in my entire lifetime where I felt like I had been, access to the real information and something other than a media and intelligence agency narrative, I would just be, chilling right now and waiting for the outcome. And things, would be tragic, but normal. And I wouldn't have to sit here and spend, for 2.5 hours, my entire week wargaming this, doing game theory, trying to put data points in different buckets, worth looking at again, not worth looking at again, conspiracy candy, clickbait. Like, there's so many different categories of data that we're just having shoved down our throats right now. And one thing we do have in common, I hope, at least in this room and in this audience, is all of us know something isn't right. And whoever benefits is not going to be us.
Patrick, you need to read what the LDS believe about Israel. Look it up. Says old-fashioned by choice.
I sent you a link for that, Pat, if you're interested.
Ruckus is on the case. Ruckus, give us a synopsis, please.
Well, I mean, I think you're gonna have to take a look into this yourself. But this might be very useful for you for future stuff.
Yeah, definitely drop it in our other backline chat, our ACR chat for that. I would definitely take a look at that. I had read up on this years ago. I had done sort of deep dives and stuff, including reading the whole book as well, the book.
And then, of course, I'm sure people, in case you didn't know, everybody, yes, there's a huge amount of bizarre correlations going on with the Mormon stuff, and again, Freemasonry. So do with that information what you will.
Yeah, don't go too crazy on it. Finally here, forensics of a fake murder weapon, fake suspects. The shooter, the sniper's long gone, folks. Long gone. While everyone's chasing all the fake decoys, you remember the 70-year-old man, and so. Oh, there we go. There's a.
Was he on the plane though that turned off its transponder? There's always that.
That was
okay. What, the private jet that turned off its transponder? Yeah, that's
right.
Not sus, is it? Is that sus? No, it's not. So, I mean, listen, and I want to just get your guys' comment on this thing. Sean Hannity basically pushing the give, send, go for the Kirk family this was posted on the 12th. So Sean Hannity, who himself's worth probably, I don't know, 50, 100 million or whatever. Charlie Kirk lives in a $6 million, the Kirk family, $6 million estate in Scottsdale, Arizona. It's one of the most affluent neighborhoods in the country. Charlie Kirk is a multimillionaire because of Turning Point. Do you think they reached their $1 million goal within 24 hours or something? They have $1 million already. There it is.
Was this before or after this alleged? I don't know his name, but there's a famous, I guess a football player. You don't have to be too famous to make a good shit ton of money being a football player. He has promised to provide like living expenses for the wife and the kids.
Living expenses.
Yeah, and I'm just like, my gosh, does he know what he just got himself on the hook for?
Seriously. That's some living expenses right there. People think that Charlie was like scraping by. This guy's minted, and because he's as I laid out in the opening segment. I mean, a lot of people just don't realize what you're dealing with here. This thing was a cash cow. They're raking in $100 million a year. I mean, it's not just him rocking up with a mug saying "Prove me wrong" on college campuses. I mean, that's what it looks like. But that shows you how naive and stupid a lot of people are in politics. I'm not picking on the right either. It's just as clueless on the left. They think that these are all sort of grassroots, operations that, running on the fumes of goodwill of the donors. The richest people in America have bankrolled Turning Point for the last decade. The richest billionaires. So you go against the billionaire class, if even a little bit, it can have repercussions. I'm not saying I know that that's the case, or that's why this happened to Charlie Kirk, but it's at some point, you have to understand that's what you're dealing with there. He's not a journalist. Some people are calling him a journalist. Oh, a journalist has been gunned down. He's not. He's a political activist. He's an advocate who does journalistic things, like has podcasts. He's not a journalist. Trust me on that. Not even close. But it just we're living in the times where nothing means anything to anybody. It's in terms of having any kind of analytical conversation about some of this stuff. So I don't know, guys. This one is this is a big one in terms of the political impact and the symbolism and how the state will react, and how law enforcement, how the establishment reacts or wants us to react. This is huge. And this is, I predict, I'm going to say that this is not going to be the last one. I think something big is coming on the back end of this. And these things usually come in threes. They usually come in threes. Everybody is expendable at this level. And Charlie Kirk, and I'll say it again, this will be my final thoughts, and we'll go around the horn for your final thoughts on all of this, guys. And also to give a shout out on your other work, our esteemed panel here. But this is my takeaway. If I could sum up everything I said during that first exhaustive segment today, is that while Charlie Kirk was alive, he was a tool of the establishment. He was used as a political tool. He was young, he was energetic, and he was used to advance certain ideas that reflect the desires of his donors. And in death, he will continue to be used as a political tool, and this event will be used as a political set piece. To what end? We have speculated today some of those ends, and I think still there's more will be revealed, and this might not be the last such event at a very, very high level in the United States as well. Okay, so that's where I'm at on this, guys. And by the way, we were just toggling against the George Galloway show on X for the #1 live podcast, at least the ones that I follow, at around 6,000 on the live stream. So that's pretty good, considering we've been off for 2 weeks. That's another story. Round the horn and away we go. Hesher, go ahead.
Well, quickly with regard to the private plane, there's an article up at People Magazine, which is put in the supplemental links on this week's Boiler Room show page at alternatecurrentradio.com. They are saying that the owner of the plane at this conspiracy theory has spoken out as of a couple days ago. They say Derek Maxfield, the CEO of an online marketing company, says his family was unfairly impacted by inaccurate and false theories regarding his company's plane. He says everything's above board here. He says how many, crew he had, how many passengers he had, when he took off, when they turned the responder off. And he claims that the FAA was in communication with them, and this is something they often do when they're flying. So
was it 33?
Yeah, really. But there are other people that are looking, still digging on this one and looking into Derek Maxfield and his company and their connections and all that. So this isn't gone, but just beware, if that's one of your first points of interest, that there is a counterpoint circulating right now, and that's now, ashes in the drain of all of this stuff. As far as what we got going, we had our boiler room on Thursday night. It's about a 4-hour broadcast. This was before the shooter was confirmed by the federal FBI, which we saw the next day. And that's a very interesting, by the way, there's the show page right there. Charlie Kirk's Murder. They got us right where they want us, at each other's throats. It's available on all the video podcasting platforms right now, and the audio podcast is forthcoming. So please go check that show out. Join us on Thursdays for Boiler Room. I'm certain this Thursdays will just have another torrent of information in the wake of all this. And I'm afraid they do have us right where they want us, at each other's throats here. And that's what we really need to be wary of. It's sickening to me that people are calling for civil war instead of calling for disclosure, truth, de-escalation, stopping genocides, stopping wars, asking why their country is changing their Department of Defense to the Department of War at a time like this, with all these things going on. Start trying to, you don't want to be at odds with your neighbors, because these people aren't going to stop. They're going to manufacture whatever it is they're trying to manufacture, and your neighbors need to be your community at that point when that happens. And if we're all just suspicious of each other and cyber stalking your neighbors' Facebooks to see what political party they might be part of or what their analysis of Charlie Kirk's murder is, then we're already lost. And I'm afraid the polarization and the fracturization over the culture wars and everything we've seen may have us too far gone at this point to come back together. So I hope I'm wrong, but like Ruckus said, this is bad.
Yeah, I hope you're wrong too, but I'm extremely concerned. And a lot of people are asking, how does Ruckus know all the Freemasonic hand signals? And then the comments are blowing up because when I posted that, Ruckus then walked away out of view of the camera, which caused another wave of comments. There we are. Richardson's Monitor Freemason. So you've got the book.
I have the book. But that doesn't mean I'm one of them. It
doesn't mean you have the box of tricks in the closet.
Pick up a copy of this. But this is very, it's very useful. And in there is that same symbolic pose that, unfortunately, Mr. Kirk took as he was passing. Again, just very strange stuff. I get to practice what I preach now about corrections. I need to make a correction about the football player making the donation to Charlie Kirk's family. This is actually one of those classic fake news stories that other people picked up and ran with, which is why I had seen it, but I didn't do a deep dive. That's why I was curious about it. But they took the same story and named multiple different football players: Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Travis Kelce, or Aaron Rodgers. If you heard any of those people are donating $300,000 to Charlie Kirk's family, they are not. Nobody's paying for the living expenses. Maybe they were originally, Patrick, and then they realized how much that would cost them, and they said, no thanks. But apparently that was fake news, so I had to correct myself. Lesson learned, and I hope you're watching, Alex, and I hope you do the same. Alex Jones, that is. Thanks for having me. I've been doing a lot of guest appearances on other shows in addition to the Boiler Room. I'm, of course, on Weaponized News with Sam Chaney. I think I'm doing that on Wednesdays now instead of Mondays, but just on Friday night. So 3 in a row for me. These things always happen in threes, right? So Wednesday with Sam Chaney, then Thursday, the Boiler Room. And then Friday, I was on the Third Rail podcast with the Nature Boy. And I was alongside a bunch of great folks, including Steve Poikonen, Mr. Charles, he calls himself, but he's 3 eyes and 3 ears on X, Ray from Down Under, and of course, some folks from the New Prisoners and the AM Wake Up crew. So that was a good time, but you'll be able to find that on their Rumble channel or up at Alternate Current Radio under the moniker of Roundabout Ruckus. I'm looking forward to doing this again in the near future. Don't forget to check us out on Boiler Room for Thursdays. and find my stuff right there. Thanks, Patrick, the Daily Ruckus and all that at alternatekurtradio.com. And I hope everyone just remembers to just keep a cool head. Don't run with any information unless you can prove it for yourself, which is what Bill Cooper taught us. And of course, Bill Cooper also reminded us, he used to close the show every day by saying the thing that I like to say, which is, God bless each and every one of you, and may God save this republic. And I'll leave it at that.
Very good, positive note. Thank you very much, Ruckus. And thank you for your self-fact-checking on that. That's good journalistic bona fides. Much appreciated. And yeah, that's what others should be doing. And you did it on the fly, which is even better, within the same segment. So there's no question. So no disinformation is going to seep out of there. Oh, but Ruckus said no, and it wasn't Patrick Mahomes either. So Basil, go ahead. Your final thoughts and projects that you're working on. Where can people find you?
I think Charlie Kirk was perhaps starting to wonder what part of the Holocaust in Gaza Jesus Christ supported, because, you know, as time's gone on and we're now seeing the complete destruction of Gaza City, you know, Kirk has taken up all the oxygen in the room together with Tommy Robinson over the last couple of days. But what's going on in Gaza now is worse than at any stage since the genocide began. They're destroying all the remaining tower blocks and habitable structures in Gaza City. People are being bombed in tents on the beach. Just because it's not in our headlines every day doesn't mean that the suffering there or the numbers being killed are any less. It's an absolutely apocalyptic scene. And it is to be hoped that Christians like Charlie Kirk and his followers, whether or not Israel killed him, wake up to the utter inhumanity of what's going on there. Numerous Israeli commentators have said that Israel will kill anybody anywhere, including in London, including in the UK, if you are deemed to be a supporter of Hamas. And Charlie was himself, let's not forget, he was accused of being an anti-Semite himself, for daring to ask questions, for starting to notice one or two things. And, you know, if you consider who is it that's bombed Tunisia, Yemen, Lebanon, Syria, and Palestine in recent days, who is exporting violence all over the world, who takes pride in having an assassination squad as an integral part of its security service, it's Israel, of course.
Yeah.
So, you know, let's bear that in mind. Over in the UK, quickly, police are searching for a man who called for the Prime Minister to be assassinated during yesterday's Unite the Kingdom rally. He was on TV, apparently. He said he thought Keir Starmer needs to be killed.
It was called Unite the Kingdom.
That's what the rally.
And they're flying the England flag, because that doesn't make any sense.
Well, Starmer's come out today and said that the flag of St. George, the cross of St. George, belongs to everybody and should not be allowed to be hijacked by the far right. And is apparently going to make speeches in the near future about, once again, the benefits of diversity and immigration. So the battle lines there are being drawn. As I said, somebody called for Starmer's assassination. I think police have got about 50,000 suspects because the anti-Starmer feeling is at record levels in Britain, and it's at record levels among Labour MPs as well. So they might get rid of him in the coming week.
Well, that's a separate conversation, obviously.
It's a separate conversation, yeah, completely separate conversation.
But they are. I think they're fast tracking Andy Burnham to be the Labour leader.
Well, either that or the man hilariously described by Alexei Sale as Keir Starmer's illegitimate love child made of margarine, Wes Streeting.
Yes, Streeting. Or David Lammy.
Well, I think Lammy's brand is tarnished, not least because he's going to end up in The Hague, but he made a complete fool of himself as Foreign Secretary on a regular basis. Of course, last week in Britain, we had the genocide monster Isaac Herzog here. Quite a big ruction around that. But all this I will be unpicking tomorrow on my new program, Ascending Order, which is at 1 p.m. UK time. So that's 8 a.m. on the east coast of the United States. It's on YouTube. Search for Unprecedented TV, Basil Valentine. And we also stream it out on X at Unprecedented TV. So do give us a follow there. And tomorrow I'm joined by the one and only, long may we cherish him while we still have him, because I'm very much looking forward to his breakdown on the Charlie Kirk murder. I'm talking about the world's foremost expert on the JFK assassination, Professor James Fetzer, Emeritus Professor of the Philosophy of Science at the University of Minnesota Duluth. He'll be joining me at 1:30 UK time tomorrow, and we're going to be breaking down the parallels between the Kirk assassination and JFK.
You might as well just see if you can milk them for some Sandy Hook comparisons.
You've got a bit of hot water over that.
You might, playing with the YouTube gods of
I mean, even saying those two words is dangerous, Patrick.
I mean, to save Jim Fetzer and Sandy Hook in the same sentence, I know that could actually get the show shut down here. I mean, we're playing with fire just by mentioning it.
Absolutely. All that is exactly as the authorities described, Patrick.
Yeah, unprecedented.
Yes, it was unprecedented. That's why we chose the name Unprecedented TV. So do please give us a follow on X and subscribe to the Unprecedented TV YouTube channel, which for some reason, and we'll talk about this another time, is abbreviated to USP, unique selling point.
It's a riddle within an enigma.
That's right.
Yes, it's just one of those unsolvable puzzles.
And I'm there Monday to Friday at 1 p.m. UK time.
Basil Valentine, thank you very much for joining us. Gentlemen, thank you for participating in this discussion. Obviously, dead serious on every level, but we do bring in a little bit of light commentary in between, to break things up a little bit. So I hope no offense is taken by anybody. It's a dead serious topic, and we are very, very serious about it. If you see our other reporting on other programs and on our other outlets, we do take it extremely seriously, and but this is the Sunday Wire, so we have special privileges and latitudes which we extend to each other when we're together dealing with these very, very difficult topics. So those of you who follow us and watch us regularly, you know exactly what we're talking about. Thank you to everybody for tuning in. Thank you to our wonderful guests as well. Thank you, guys, and also everybody in the comment threads. I think this is probably a record in terms of comments. There's no way I can do the analytics and count them, but there's a lot. And so thank you guys for the engagement. We really appreciate it. Share our YouTube streams, our episodes, our shorts as much as you can on social media. Get people to like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. It's the only way we can punch through this algorithmic prison that YouTube has basically kept us in for a very long time, over a decade. And so we will get out eventually. I don't know how, but Basil's laughing in the background. We will get out, even if I have to go on like a hunger strike in San Bruno, California, outside of HQ, living in a tent and cooking eggs, beans, and sausages. I'll cook a full English living in a tent outside YouTube HQ, and then maybe then you will lift the shadow ban on this account that's been here for the last decade or more. So anyway, thank you guys for joining us. This has been the Sunday Wire. I'm your host, Patrick Henningsen. This is a wonderful stream and also an important and a difficult topic. And I think we've been pretty thorough and, again, as objective as we can. It's not everybody's cup of tea. I don't expect everybody to like everything that was said or presented on this program, but we hope that you appreciate the fact that we are being honest, objective, and telling it like it is. This is real politics. There's no reason to shy away from it. Again, if the left are upset and the right are both upset at what we have presented today, then we've probably done a very good job. We'll leave it there. But anyway, take care, you guys, and much appreciated. Again, we'll play out a couple of great tracks on the way out, including Peter Conway's latest, which is "We Need Peace. We Don't Need War. We Need Peace" by Peter Conway, and another great track as well. Thank you, guys, and please think about supporting us. I mean, I know a lot of you tune into this program, and again, if you miss any of the live streams, you can get us on the archives here. All of our shows are, been fantastic lately, of course, and you can catch us on the archives at 21stcenturywire.com. Just click on the Sunday Wire. And again, if you like what we do, you like the sort of content we're producing, you like the sort of honest take, thorough take, and also the investigative work, which we are posting daily at 21st Century Wire, please consider donating. Better yet, subscribe and become a member at 21wire.tv. That way you can support us monthly. It's just over $5 a month, and it goes a long way. We need that to happen. There's a lot of you listening, watching this program right now. You like our outlet. You know we've been around for a long time. You know we're going to be around for a long time. So invest in us in any way you can. Give us a donation and subscribe to 21wire.tv. We take every imaginable form of payment as well. If you want to do it anonymously with crypto, go ahead. You can do it that way too. But we really appreciate it. We need your help. We need your support. We're doing journalism here. We are keeping you informed, and we will continue to do so. The stories are getting tougher. They're getting more important, and we're going to be there right on the cusp of it, as we always have. So you know what you're getting with 21st Century Wire. Support us, please. We need your help now more than ever. So thank you, guys. Those of you who have supported us, thank you very much. That's all we've got time for, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Again, great guests, great commentary, great analysis. Don't know what to say. I really appreciate the team we have and also our audience. You guys are spot on your comments. Thank you very much, everyone who participated, and especially in our 21st Century Wire chat room. Sorry I haven't been able to interact with you guys during the live stream, but we will work on that in the future. Take care. All the best.
Don't need war, we need peace. We need to find a release from the ties that bind our minds, from the constraints that rule our lives. Politics has failed again. Power's in the hands of dangerous men, with their fury and their rage, and minds bent with fear, greed and hate. They're dropping bombs again. They don't know that all lives are heaven sent. It's time to stop the genocide, the warmongering in our times. Now is the time. It's time for us to visualize a world where peace will shine. Now is the time. Now is the time. Now's the time for change. Tell me, do you feel the same? For here we stand in the name of love. all peoples of the world as one. The revelation needed on the street is that we're more powerful than we believe. What they don't want us to know is that the light of love we shine they can't control. The other day I spoke to God. She said to me, share this message in a song. It's time to stop the genocide, the warmongering in our times now. Now is the time. It's time for us to visualize a world where peace will shine. Now is the time. Now is the time. We don't need war, we need peace. We need to come together in unity. We can change the world tonight when we let love be our guiding light. It's time to stop the genocide, the warmongering in our times now. Now is the time. It's time for us to visualize a world where peace will shine now. Now is the time. It's time to heal dividing lines for the sake of humankind now. Now is the time. It's time for us to realize we're all one in God's mind now. Now is the time. Now is the time. We don't need war, we need peace. We don't need war, we need peace. We don't need war, we need peace.
Brothers and sisters,